100 Questions about Buddhism. Issues about Buddhism explained extremely clearly. Part 3. 1. Is it sinful to see killing in a dream? Question. Dear Venerable, in my dream, I saw myself killing many fish. Does this mean I have committed the serious sin of killing? Please kindly explain to me, as I am very worried. Answer. To put your mind at ease, let me assure you that there is no sin for you to worry about. Why? Because it is just a dream. Since it is a dream, it is not real, so there is no need for you to be fearful. In a dream, only the consciousness is active. Therefore, it does not have the power to create karma. Since it does not create karma, there will be no karmic retribution. The reason you saw yourself killing many fish could be due to your past karma of killing, also known as habitual tendencies, which has been carried over through many lives, or is quite significant in this current life. If in this current life you do not kill much, then this is a manifestation from previous lives. These are the seeds, habitual tendencies, that you have deeply ingrained in the storehouse consciousness, alaya, vijnana. Thus, while you sleep, these seeds arise from the unconscious, and the consciousness engages with them, resulting in dreams of killing living beings. Therefore, I sincerely advise you to repent and try to cultivate more merit and virtue. By doing so, the karma of killing from many lives, as well as this current life, will gradually decrease and eventually transform and disappear. It is said that practice is for transforming karma. If karma cannot be transformed, then what is the purpose of our practice? In summary, dreaming of killing many fish does not create a sin. Since it does not create karma, there will be no karmic retribution. Do not worry. I wish you diligent practice and quick attainment of your aspirations. 2. After death, what endures punishment in the Avichi hell? Question. Dear Venerable, when we die, the body composed of the 4 great elements disintegrates. But why are the extreme punishments in the Avichi hell still inflicted on the deceased's body? Are these two things not contradictory? Please explain this to us. Answer. There is no contradiction at all. You should remember that although the body composed of the 4 great elements disintegrates, the good and evil karma we have created never disappears. Everything is stored in the storehouse consciousness, alaya vijnana. If it were to vanish completely, it would fall into the heretical view of nihilism, which denies the existence of karmic retribution in the next life. This denial would lead to a chaotic world because no one would believe in the law of cause and effect. Such disbelief would indeed cause great harm to human society. To help you understand this issue better, let me give an example. Suppose in a dream you see yourself being bitten by a snake or chased by ghosts. Are you not terrified at that moment? What makes you panic and fear? Is it your body or your consciousness that is scared? Clearly, your body is lying peacefully on the bed. So what is running in fear, and which body is running frantically to escape? Is it your physical body lying in bed running? No, it is not. So which body is running? In dreams, we still perceive having a body and experiencing sorrow or joy. Sometimes we see ourselves feasting and drinking with friends. At other times, we feel hungry and miserable, wandering in search of food. Sometimes we are beaten and tortured, feeling great pain and suffering. And sometimes we feel ourselves floating in the sky. Which body feels these joys and sorrows? Is it the body lying in bed or the dream body? Similarly, when we fall into the Avichi hell and endure painful punishments, that state is similar to dreaming of being tortured. Although the physical body composed of the 4 great elements has disintegrated, based on the evil karma created, we must experience another retributive body to suffer in hell. This retributive body is beyond our ordinary eyes to see. Just like in a dream, where you see yourself eating, drinking, talking, laughing, playing, or being tortured, can anyone else see that body? Although no one sees it, does it still experience those events? Certainly no one can deny the existence of the body in the dream. However, it should be understood that dream events are not real, but while dreaming, we perceive them as real. If not, why would we laugh, cry, and fear? Only when we wake up do we realize it was a dream, and all worries and fears disappear. Similarly, although the punishments in hell are not real, while still immersed in delusion and karma, we naturally feel suffering. Only when we fully realize the ultimate truth do we see that the hell realms are illusory and not real. As Venerable Yongja Xuanzui said in the Song of Enlightenment, Realizing the true nature, there is no self and no dharmas. In an instant, all the karma of Avichi hell is eradicated. To eliminate all Avichi karma in an instant, we must truly realize the true nature of all phenomena. Thus, a person who has committed evil deeds and falls into the Avichi hell after death, as you mentioned, the punishments and sufferings are not on the physical body, but on the consciousness that experiences the hell retributive body. It is like being frightened in a dream. Although the physical body is unaware, like the physical body composed of the four great elements disintegrating, the consciousness suffers greatly. Thus, hell exists for those who have committed sins. It does not exist for those who have not created evil karma. Like the suffering in dreams exists for those who are asleep and dreaming, but does not exist for those who are awake. I believe that with this example, you can somewhat understand and no longer see it as contradictory. Indeed, as long as we live in ignorance and karmic consciousness, our understanding is limited and often mistaken. We perceive things based on our discriminative, deluded mind. It is like a person with eye disease seeing illusory flowers in the sky, but in reality, the sky has no such flowers. The illusion is due to the eye disease. For those without the eye disease, they see a clear sky. In the Buddhist worldview, the vast universe contains countless sentient beings with different karmic retributions. According to each karmic retribution, sentient beings take on different forms. The human retributive body is one among countless retributive bodies. Thus, suffering in the hell realms is also a retributive body. From the perspective of phenomena, if we base it on ultimate truth, the hell realms exist within our minds. The punishments and sufferings are experienced by our minds. Everything arises from the mind. Hell or heaven, birth and death, or nirvana all exist within our minds. A deluded, grasping mind is hell. A clear, detached mind is the mind of nirvana and happiness. On this occasion, I would also like to explain the relationship between body and mind so that you can distinguish what is important and what is secondary. Upon close examination, the body is like a vehicle. A vehicle, though complete in its parts, cannot move without a driver. Thus, the vehicle's movement depends on the driver. If someone hits the vehicle with a stick, does the vehicle feel pain? The vehicle, being inanimate, does not feel pain. Although the vehicle does not feel pain, the driver feels great pain because he identifies with the vehicle. Due to this attachment, he tries to protect the vehicle at all costs. However, no matter how much he protects it, eventually, the vehicle cannot last. The body is like the vehicle, and the mind is like the driver. When the mind is still in the body, it controls the body. The body's movements are due to the mind. When the mind leaves the body, just like the driver leaving the vehicle, even if the body remains intact, it does not function. At that point, we call it death. So what feels pain? The vehicle or the driver? The body or the mind? Clearly, the mind feels pain. But because we have identified with the body, we say the body feels pain, while in reality, it is the mind that feels pain. Therefore, the Buddha said everything arises from the mind. The mind leads. The mind governs all actions. The Sutra says, the three realms are only the mind. All phenomena are only consciousness. Thus, the perception of suffering or joy is primarily from the mind, not the body. Although body and mind are closely related, the body is only an instrument of the mind. In other words, the mind is the root, and the body is the dependent part. Hence, while living, we should skillfully use the body for cultivation. To use it does not mean to enslave or destroy it. We must respect and be grateful to it because it helps us achieve liberation, just as we skillfully use a vehicle to reach a safe destination. Understanding this, we should not be slaves to the body daily. No matter how much we pamper it, it will eventually disintegrate. However, few people think about the mind. Everyone tends to serve and protect the body. Therefore, the Buddha scolded us as deluded beings. Due to deep attachment to the body, even after death, people still think they carry it with them. Like you thought, without the physical body composed of the four great elements, which body endures suffering in hell? This is the common deep-rooted attachment of all sentient beings. 3. Why do practitioners of the Buddha recitation method not worship Mahashtama Prapta separately but worship Avalokitesvara instead? Question. Dear Venerable, The sutras state that Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara attained enlightenment through meditation, whereas Bodhisattva Mahastamaprapta attained enlightenment through Buddha recitation. So why do practitioners of the Buddha recitation method not worship the statue of Bodhisattva Mahastamaprapta separately? If they do, it is usually as part of the triad of saints, but instead worship the statue of Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara separately. Please explain why this is so and whether this practice is correct. Thank you. Answer: from the perspective of practice, the Buddha taught countless Dharma methods to suit the varying capacities and levels of practitioners. Although there are many methods, the ultimate goal of achieving Buddhahood is the same. It's like a house with many doors, but the house itself is one. Each person can choose whichever door they prefer to enter. The key is to enter through the chosen door correctly. Once a choice is made, one should proceed straight through it. Only by doing so can one truly enter the house. Both great bodhisattvas Avalokitesvara and Mahastamaprapta, during their practice, each chose a specific method. Avalokitesvara chose the method of meditation, entering through the ear faculty, practicing reversing the hearing to hear the self-nature. Mahastamaprapta chose the method of Buddha recitation, utilizing the tongue faculty and the mind faculty. Broadly, it means encompassing all 6 faculties to practice. According to his explanation in the Shurangama Sutra, his method involved reciting the Buddha's name, leading to the realization of the patience of non-arising. Thus, while meditation and Buddha recitation may appear different, their ultimate enlightenment is the same. This demonstrates the fundamental harmony and unity in the Buddha's teachings. Nowadays, many practitioners do not fully understand the unity of these practices, leading to doubts and even conflicts. Anyone who has such doubts should reflect on the example set by these 2 great bodhisattvas. Moreover, if we look at the representation of the triad of saints, Amitabha Buddha, Avalokitesvara, and Mahastamaprapta, we can see this unity symbolized. The 2 bodhisattvas stand on either side of Amitabha Buddha. Although the left and right sides appear distinct, like the differences between meditation and Buddha recitation, the ultimate essence of enlightenment is not dual. From the perspective of ultimate truth, all phenomena share the same essence. While on the surface, there may seem to be many different waves, the water itself is one. Amitabha Buddha represents the enlightened nature transcending duality. This signifies the integration and elimination of dualistic opposition. For practitioners who still see differences between Pure Land and meditation, worldly and spiritual life, self and others, they cannot realize their true nature. Without realizing true nature, liberation cannot be attained. Such dualistic views are the root of conflicts and violence. The chaotic state of the world is due to this delusory, discriminatory view. From this arises countless negative karmas, leading to endless suffering. The Vimalakirti Sutra, in the chapter on the Dharma door of non-duality, teaches us this priceless lesson of non-duality. Unfortunately, people, due to ignorance, have not yet realized this profound truth. You asked why Pure Land practitioners, who should theoretically venerate Mahastamaprapta, as he attained enlightenment through Buddha recitation, often worship Avalokitesvara separately instead. The reason is that each bodhisattva has their unique vow and practice. Avalokitesvara made a great vow to hear the cries of sentient beings and relieve their suffering in this world. Regardless of the sentient being's plight, if they sincerely call upon Avalokitesvara, the bodhisattva will manifest to save them. Due to this vow, Avalokitesvara has a deep connection with the beings in this world. Hence, it is not surprising that most Mahayana Buddhist countries have statues of Avalokitesvara, as people believe in Avalokitesvara's ability to relieve suffering. Mahastamaprapta, on the other hand, although attained enlightenment through Buddha recitation, did not make such extensive vows to save beings in this world as Avalokitesvara did. Instead, Mahastamaprapta vowed to assist Amitabha Buddha in guiding beings who recite Amitabha's name to be reborn in the Pure Land and to teach them there. Based on this vow, Mahastamaprapta is not worshipped separately like Avalokitesvara, but is included in the triad of saints. Conversely, Avalokitesvara not only vowed to assist Amitabha Buddha in guiding beings to the Pure Land, similar to Mahastamaprapta, but also vowed to manifest in 32 forms to save beings in this world. Therefore, Avalokitesvara is worshipped separately. This worship aligns with Avalokitesvara's vow to save beings and is not incorrect at all. For vegetarian food, but the menu lists all meat dishes? Question. Dear Venerable, the Buddha teaches that practitioners should avoid things that are seductive and cause attachment. However, I don't understand why vegetarian restaurants often list dishes with names that are entirely meat-based and sound very enticing, such as braised fish, shredded chicken, duck noodle soup, etc. Why are they named this way? Does this make people think of meat while eating vegetarian food? Is this practice sinful? Please explain. Answer. First, I must clarify that I am not the one who created these dish names, so I cannot provide a definitive answer that will fully satisfy your query. This is a specialized area within the realm of commerce, and in commerce, everyone aims for profit, even when selling vegetarian food. I believe if you directly ask the people who created these names, they could provide a more precise and satisfactory explanation. However, to address your question, I will offer some thoughts on this matter. I agree with you that the Buddha teaches practitioners to avoid things that are seductive and cause attachment. However, in Buddhism there are two types of attachments: wholesome attachments and unwholesome attachments. Unwholesome attachments are those that bring great suffering when one becomes entangled with them, such as addiction to alcohol, gambling, drugs, etc. These cause significant harm to one's health, destroy family happiness, and negatively impact society. These are the things practitioners should avoid. On the other hand, wholesome attachments, which benefit oneself, family, and society, should be encouraged and practiced. Examples of wholesome attachments include eating vegetarian food, reciting the Buddha's name, chanting sutras, bowing in reverence, and engaging in altruistic actions. These are wholesome practices that should be cultivated. Naming vegetarian dishes with enticing meat-like names is, in my view, a clever commercial strategy to appeal to human curiosity. Knowing it's a vegetarian restaurant, no matter how attractive the names are, the food is still vegetarian. The names are simply a technique to attract people's taste preferences. Such attractive names can draw people to eat vegetarian food, reducing the act of killing animals. It is a good expedient means. This strategy, while commercial, can have positive effects. In a nation with many vegetarian restaurants and people eating vegetarian food, it is a blessing for that country as it indicates many virtuous individuals. Even if someone eats vegetarian food but thinks of meat, I don't think it is sinful. If thinking of meat were a sin, then would everyone who doesn't eat vegetarian but thinks of meat be sinful? Remember, practitioners following the human vehicle are not yet free from all desires. Moreover, not all customers at vegetarian restaurants are Buddhists. Some might just prefer vegetarian food. Should they not be allowed to think of meat? If mere thought was sinful, then would everyone who occasionally thinks about meat be sinful? In fact, entering a vegetarian restaurant already shows an inclination towards wholesome action. Even if they eat vegetarian for dietary reasons or to change their palate, it is still a good thing. At least they avoid a meal involving the suffering of animals. If the entire human race became attached to vegetarian food, wouldn't the world be more peaceful? However, even with these enticing names, few people are drawn to vegetarian food. Without these attractive names, would anyone step into a vegetarian restaurant? I hope everyone can develop a taste for vegetarian food through these attractive names. If one more person eats vegetarian, society will have one less person harming animals. The less killing, the less violence and terror in the world. In summary, naming vegetarian dishes with meat-like names is a clever way to stimulate people's interest. Even if customers think of meat, it's still a good thing, not sinful. Naming these dishes is not a sin. It might even encourage people to eat more vegetarian food, eventually leading to a habit and a shift to a lifelong vegetarian diet. Isn't it great if thinking about meat-like dishes leads to becoming a lifelong vegetarian? Therefore, we should thank those who created these attractive names, as they help more people embrace vegetarianism. 5. How to worship Buddha and take refuge in the Three Jewels properly. Question. Dear Venerable, my name is Chawan. I have a question. My family wants to set up a Buddha altar at home. Some people say that the incense burner for worshiping Buddha can be shared with that for worshiping deities. while others say that there should be a separate Buddha altar. This has made me very confused. Could you please advise on the correct way to do this and which Buddha statue should be worshipped at home? My father passed away a year ago, and my mother follows the Pure Land school but is currently practicing Zen. Additionally, my mother advises me to take refuge in the Three Jewels, but I have not fully researched this and am hesitant. Could you explain what changes after taking refuge, what I need to do, and what I should avoid? Thank you. Answer: in your question, Chao-an, there are 4 issues you want to know about. To address them clearly, I will discuss each one separately. 1. Separate altar for Buddha or combined with deities. Chao-an mentioned that there are 2 opposing views. A combined altar for Buddha and deities. B, a separate altar for Buddha. Due to these conflicting opinions, you are confused about the proper way to worship Buddha. According to the Buddha's teachings, deities are still sentient beings and must continue to cycle through the 3 realms. Therefore, when taking refuge in the 3 jewels, the Buddha taught that practitioners should not take refuge in deities, spirits, ghosts, or objects. Since deities are a type of ghost with more power and authority than others, they are often referred to as spirits. But in general, they are still spirits. Considering this, it is inappropriate for spirits to be worshipped alongside Buddha. Spirits include both good and evil ones. Good spirits often vow to protect the Buddha's teachings. I understand your confusion because you haven't had the opportunity to study and understand Buddhism deeply, especially in terms of spiritual and metaphysical life. Furthermore, those advising you to worship Buddha with deities might not understand Buddhism well themselves, failing to distinguish between the higher and lower states of spirits and Buddhas. Those who suggest worshiping Buddha separately show a certain understanding of the proper way to honor and worship, reflecting a respectful attitude towards Buddha. Therefore, I suggest following the advice to set up a separate Buddha altar. To summarize, I sincerely recommend that Chao-an set up a separate Buddha altar in a clean and respectful place to show reverence towards Buddha, which will also bring more blessings. 2. Which Buddha statue to worship? Since your mother follows the Pure Land school but is currently practicing Zen, typically practitioners worship a Buddha statue that aligns with their school's teachings. Although any Buddha statue is suitable as all Buddhas are the same, specific schools have preferences. Zen practitioners usually worship a Shakyamuni Buddha statue because he attained enlightenment through meditation. Conversely, Pure Land practitioners often worship Amitabha Buddha or the 3 sacred ones, Amitabha, Avalokiteshvara, and Mahashtama Prapta, aspiring to be reborn in the Western Pure Land where Amitabha presides. I advise you to consult with your mother about her preference. If you live with her, respecting her choice for the Buddha statue would be ideal, maintaining harmony and not causing discord between you two. 3. Should you take refuge in the 3 jewels as advised by your mother? It is understandable to be cautious before making such a significant spiritual decision. Taking refuge in the 3 jewels is a crucial step that impacts one's spiritual journey for life. Therefore, thorough understanding and consideration are essential. Some people take refuge first and then learn more about Buddhism, fearing the unpredictable nature of life might take away the opportunity if delayed. If you choose to follow your mother's advice and take refuge, it is beneficial. However, after taking refuge, you should strive to study and practice Buddhism diligently to ensure you are on the right path and avoid following false teachings. You can decide either way: learn first, then take refuge, or take refuge and learn afterward. Both have their benefits. Sometimes, having taken refuge, one feels more committed to studying and practicing, similar to enrolling in a school before fully committing to studying. 4. Changes after taking refuge in the 3 jewels. After taking refuge in the 3 jewels, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, you should observe the 3 refuges and the 5 precepts, which are fundamental ethical guidelines for lay Buddhists to enhance moral character. The 5 precepts include: no killing, respect all life, especially avoiding taking human life. This precept promotes compassion and prevents karmic retribution. No stealing, respect others' property, and avoid taking what is not given. This precept fosters honesty and respect for others' belongings. No sexual misconduct, Maintain fidelity in relationships and avoid harming others' dignity. This precept protects the sanctity of family and personal relationships. No lying, speak truthfully, avoiding deceit, gossip, and harmful speech. This precept encourages trust and harmony in communication. No intoxicants, avoid substances that cloud the mind and lead to loss of self-control. This precept supports mental clarity and moral responsibility. These precepts help you lead a more ethical, peaceful, and happy life, benefiting yourself and society. After taking refuge, you will continue to live your daily life normally, but with a renewed commitment to ethical and wholesome living. You will strive to cultivate good habits and avoid harmful actions, aligning your life with Buddhist principles. I hope this provides a clear understanding and encourages you to make an informed decision. May you find peace and wisdom in your spiritual journey. 6. Is it appropriate to perform ancestral worship at home if the ancestral image is kept in a temple? Question. Dear Venerable, my father passed away a long time ago, in 1999, and his image is worshipped at Quang Minh Temple. Every year on his death anniversary, we gather at my mother's house for the ceremony. While in Vietnam, my sibling invites a monk to perform the ritual at home without going to the temple where the ancestral image is kept. Is it acceptable for our family to perform the ritual this way? Please advise. Answer. According to our cultural customs, ancestor worship is particularly significant on death anniversaries. The death anniversary, also known as the Memorial Day, is a time to commemorate the deceased. After a person is buried, their family gradually resumes normal life. However, each year on the death anniversary, family members, regardless of how busy they are, gather to honor the deceased. Typically, this ceremony takes place at the ancestral house or the home where the deceased is worshipped. For families that follow religious customs, particularly those that include ancestor worship, this practice is integral. However, not all religions observe ancestor worship, and for those that do not, the practice is more of a memorial rather than a ritual worship. In your case, the worship of your late father follows traditional practices, and having his image kept at the temple is in accordance with common Buddhist practices. This is done to ensure that the deceased can listen to the sutras and be guided towards liberation. This is a commendable and appropriate practice in Buddhism. However, this does not mean that family members must gather at the temple every year for the death anniversary. This depends on the family's living arrangements and circumstances. Many urban families with limited space prefer to perform the ceremony at the temple for convenience and to avoid the hassle of hosting at home. But if your family has the means and prefers to perform the ritual at home, this is also perfectly acceptable. I suggest that on the death anniversary, you bring some offerings such as fruits and incense to the temple where the ancestral image is kept. Pay respects and make offerings to the Triple Gem, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, and pray for the deceased's swift liberation. This simple act is sufficient. Afterward, you can perform the ritual at home. The important aspect of this ritual, as taught by the Buddha, is to avoid killing animals for the ceremony. Doing so would only create more negative karma for both the living and the deceased. To help the deceased attain liberation, it is best to offer vegetarian food. Commemorating the death anniversary is a way to remind descendants to remember the virtues and merits of their ancestors, showing respect and following their example. This is the true meaning of memorializing and repaying the debt of gratitude to the deceased. Regarding your practice of inviting a monk to your home in Vietnam to chant sutras for the deceased during the anniversary, this is a highly commendable act. I wholeheartedly praise this practice. In summary, the way you commemorate your father's death anniversary is appropriate and in line with cultural and religious practices. The key is to avoid killing animals for the offerings, ensuring it benefits both the deceased and the living. I encourage you to follow the Buddha's teachings in this regard. Doing so will bring blessings and merit to both the deceased and the living. May you find peace and continue to honor your father in a way that brings merit to all. 7. How to reduce anger? Question. Dear Venerable, could you please advise me on how to reduce my anger? Even though I try to chant the Buddha's name when I'm angry, I still feel very frustrated inside and don't know how to get rid of it. Answer. Anger is a habitual tendency rooted in fundamental ignorance and delusion, known as one of the three poisons: greed, hatred, and delusion. These three poisons have deep roots and have been with us for countless lifetimes. When we are born, these tendencies are already present. Anger is a part of this trio and is referred to in Buddhism as one of the three poisons, tam dok. These poisons cause us to suffer and create negative karma that leads us through the cycles of birth and death in the three realms and six paths of existence. In your case, it seems that your tendency towards anger is quite deep-rooted. When confronted with situations that are contrary to your desires, you become very angry, much like a fire that flares up intensely. Even though you try to suppress it by chanting the Buddha's name, you still cannot control the rage. This is a painful state to be in, and I understand your suffering. It's a common affliction among sentient beings, not just you. To deal with anger effectively, the Buddha taught various methods depending on one's level of understanding, but all methods involve using wisdom to deeply examine our inner selves. Absolute suppression is not recommended because it can make the anger even more entrenched. Buddhism strongly opposes repression as a solution because it does not truly resolve the problem, but can instead cause the anger to build up until it explodes violently. The Buddha taught that we need to recognize and transform our anger. When we are angry, we can express to the other person that we are upset. We should openly and honestly communicate our feelings and the reasons for our anger. This can help the other person understand us better. Sometimes, our anger is based on misunderstandings, and open communication can help resolve these issues. Both parties should use gentle and kind speech and be open and sincere. We should set aside our pride and ego, as these are the sources of conflict and suffering. Once we resolve the issue, we will feel as if a heavy burden has been lifted, and our hearts will be lighter and more at peace. In Buddhism, the goal is not to harbor hatred or resentment towards anyone. Sometimes we may be mistaken, but still cling stubbornly to our views. Our pride often makes us want to dominate others. This is a harmful mindset that only leads to more suffering for ourselves and others. When someone says or does something that makes us angry, they are already suffering. Therefore, we should feel compassion for them rather than anger. They may be carrying deep-seated pain and frustration. By understanding this, we can better handle our own emotions. To effectively manage anger, the Buddha advised us to frequently reflect on ourselves and practice mindfulness. Mindfulness allows us to recognize and transform our anger. Anger is not our enemy, it is a part of our mind that needs care and attention. If we lash out in anger, we harm others and ourselves. We should remember that when we speak harshly, it is like spitting upwards, it falls back on us. Therefore, we should learn to comfort and care for our anger, reducing its intensity. The wisdom of Buddhism helps us to dismantle our anger. We need to deeply and thoroughly reflect on ourselves and others. Look in the mirror when we are angry. We will likely be horrified by the angry face we see. Understanding this can help us reduce our anger, as no one wants to look like a demonic figure. In summary, to effectively reduce anger, we can practice the following 4 principles. 1. Regularly practice mindfulness by following your breath. 2. Ensure that your words and actions are guided by mindfulness. 3. Cultivate compassion and loving kindness and practice tolerance and forgiveness. Treat others with a generous and harmonious attitude. 4. Deeply reflect on your mind to recognize and transform the seeds of anger from their inception. These 4 principles are essential for regular practice. Over time, your habit of anger will gradually diminish, leading to a more peaceful and happy life. I wish you success in your practice and transformation. 8. How to encourage a child to joyfully attend a temple. Question: Dear Venerable, I have a child who used to attend the temple a few times, but has since become lazy and no longer wants to go. How can I encourage my child to willingly and joyfully attend the temple? Answer: Attending the temple or engaging in spiritual practice depends on each individual's karmic affinities and personal interest. It is not something that should be forced, as this can sometimes be counterproductive and even harmful. Your child, as you mentioned, used to attend the temple a few times, but has since stopped. In my view, it is best to let the child be natural and not push them. As a parent, you should avoid scolding or forcing them to attend the temple. It is especially important not to use your parental authority to reprimand them harshly for being lazy and not going to the temple. Attending the temple means different things to different people. It is important to understand that not everyone who goes to the temple is necessarily practicing. Here are a few different motivations for attending the temple. Some go to the temple to offer their services and help with temple activities. However, if someone offends them, their anger may flare up, causing a scene. Some attend to observe and criticize the actions of the monks and lay people. Some go to the temple merely to make offerings or visit the ancestral tablets, without participating in chanting or listening to Dharma talks. Some genuinely go to the temple to listen to the Dharma and engage in spiritual practice. In short, there are many reasons why people attend the temple, and it is important to understand the true meaning of spiritual practice, too, which means to cultivate and transform oneself. This involves changing negative habits and thoughts into positive ones. It is not necessary to attend the temple to practice, although the temple provides a conducive environment for spiritual growth. The temple is a place of peace and purity, where the Dharma is taught and where one can cultivate virtues and wisdom. Attending the temple with the right mindset helps to strengthen one's faith and spiritual power. Without this understanding, attending the temple might not yield the intended benefits. For a young person, there are different approaches. It is important to respect their autonomy and encourage them gently. If they see the benefits of attending the temple and how it positively impacts your life, they might become more interested. You could create a conducive spiritual environment at home, with regular practices like chanting, creating a peaceful family atmosphere, and engaging in loving and open communication. When problems arise, they should be resolved harmoniously and with mutual understanding. Ultimately, showing by example is powerful. If your child sees you sincerely practicing and transforming positively, they may be inspired to follow suit. Encourage them to join youth groups such as the Buddhist Youth Association, where they can participate in temple activities with peers, making it a more enjoyable and relatable experience. The key is to create an inviting and supportive environment that aligns with their interests and encourages them to explore spirituality in a way that resonates with them. May you find peace and success in guiding your child and in your own spiritual practice. 9. Can I hang Buddha and Bodhisattva images above the ancestral altar? Question. Dear Venerable, my house already has a Buddha altar and a separate ancestral altar. Now I want to hang images of the Buddha and Bodhisattva Kshitigarbha on the wall above the ancestral altar. Is this appropriate? Answer. Your arrangement of separate altars for Buddha and ancestors is quite orderly, and it is very good to have distinct altars. Worshipping should be done with reverence and solemnity. The setup of altars depends on each family's circumstances and spatial conditions. In your case, you already have a Buddha altar, but now wish to hang images of the Buddha and Bodhisattva Kshitigarbha on the wall above the ancestral altar. While there is nothing inherently wrong with this, there are a few considerations to keep in mind. If you place too many images of the Buddha and Bodhisattvas around the house, it might detract from the overall aesthetic and solemnity of the space. You already have a dedicated Buddha altar, which is sufficient. In a smaller or more confined space, having a single dedicated area for worship can be more appropriate and respectful. In many Mahayana Buddhist temples, especially those of the northern tradition, there is often only one central image of the Buddha, typically Shakyamuni Buddha, in the main hall. The simpler the setup, the better. This not only looks more aesthetically pleasing, but also makes it easier for worshippers to focus their thoughts and devotions on a single point during their practice. It's important to understand that all Buddhas are one in essence. Worshipping one Buddha is equivalent to worshipping all Buddhas. It is like having multiple light bulbs in a house, but only one source of electricity. The form might differ, but the essence is the same. Worshipping a single image of the Buddha or a Bodhisattva with a majestic and radiant appearance can leave a deep and peaceful impression, making it easier to cultivate a sense of tranquility and devotion. Many Buddhists mistakenly believe that worshipping more Buddhas and Bodhisattvas will provide greater protection and blessings, or that having many images will keep away evil spirits. While this belief is widespread, it is actually a misunderstanding. Worshipping the Buddha and Bodhisattvas should not be seen as a way to demand protection or blessings, but rather as a way to inspire us to follow their virtuous paths and emulate their practices. The images of the Buddha and Bodhisattvas serve to remind us of their enlightened qualities and to encourage us to strive for similar virtues in our daily lives. By seeing their images daily, we are reminded to cultivate our own spiritual practices diligently. To summarize, it is best to keep your worship area simple and focused. Having one Buddha altar is sufficient and should be maintained with respect and cleanliness. By doing so, you create an environment conducive to sincere practice and reflection. The real benefit of worship comes from our sincere efforts to live by the teachings and virtues exemplified by the Buddha and Bodhisattvas. How to guide your child towards the three jewels and the benefits of dedication. Question: Dear Venerable, I have 2 questions that I seek your guidance on. 1. My children have a kind heart and know how to do good deeds and make offerings, but they are not inclined towards the 3 jewels, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. I wish for them to turn their minds towards the 3 jewels and practice mindfulness, but none of them follow this path. Is this due to their karmic predispositions, and what should I do? I have a child with a congenital disability and another who is addicted to gambling. I believe this is due to their karmic conditions, so when I recite sutras and chant the Buddha's name, I dedicate the merits to them. Does this bring them any benefit? Answer: I deeply empathize with your suffering and the sense of responsibility you feel as a mother. Allow me to offer some thoughts on your 2 questions. 1. Guiding your children towards the 3 jewels. The fact that your children perform good deeds and make offerings is commendable. This indicates that they have virtuous roots from past lives, which have matured into their present good actions. Encouraging them to continue building their merit is essential. However, it's important to motivate rather than compel them. When you mention that they are not inclined towards the 3 jewels, I wonder if you wish for them to take refuge, visit the temple regularly, or engage in daily chanting and meditation. Remember that spiritual inclination is deeply personal and often depends on each individual's karmic predispositions. Not everyone may be ready to embrace the path of the 3 jewels immediately. It's natural for parents to desire a righteous and moral path for their children, but it's also crucial to recognize that not all desires will manifest. The Buddha taught that one of the great sources of human suffering is the suffering of unfulfilled desire. We cannot force our will upon others, as each person's thoughts and actions are influenced by their unique karmic background and personal choices. You may recall the saying, "You can give birth to the body, but not to the mind." This means that while you can nurture and raise your children, you cannot control their thoughts and desires. Their journey is their own, and your role is to guide and support them without imposing your will. Historically, the Buddha never compelled anyone to follow his teachings. He provided guidance and left it to individuals to decide their paths. The essence of Buddhism is respecting each person's freedom to choose. Thus, I advise you to let your children make their own decisions regarding their spiritual journey. Offer them the wisdom of the Dharma and let them choose their paths. 2. Benefits of dedicating merits to your children. Your practice of reciting sutras and chanting for your children, especially for the one addicted to gambling and the one with a congenital disability, is commendable. While the act of dedicating merits can have some positive influence, the key to transformation lies within the individuals themselves. For your child with a gambling addiction, the crucial factor is their own realization and effort to change. External prayers and dedications can only provide minimal assistance. True change must come from within the individual. They need to recognize the harm and seek to overcome their addiction through conscious effort and possibly professional help. Regarding your child with a congenital disability, understand that this is the result of their own past karma. The suffering they endure is a manifestation of their previous actions. As the saying goes, if you want to know your past life, look at your present condition. If you want to know your future life, look at your present actions. Therefore, while your prayers and merits can offer some solace, the main transformation must come from their own karma and actions. As a Buddhist practitioner, it's essential to understand that ultimate liberation comes from personal effort in practicing the Dharma, not solely from external rituals or prayers. The principles of karma, dependent origination, and self-effort are fundamental in Buddhism. In summary, while dedicating merits is beneficial, the primary factor in overcoming challenges and transforming lives lies in personal effort and practice. Continue to offer your support and guidance, but recognize that true change must come from within your children. May you find peace and strength on your path, and may your children be blessed with wisdom and compassion to navigate their own journeys. With compassion and wisdom, I encourage you to maintain your practice, offering guidance and support to your children while respecting their individual paths. May your dedication and loving intentions bear fruit, bringing peace and happiness to you and your family. 11. Can chanting sutras for the deceased have an effect on those who passed away long ago? Question. Dear Venerable, I have a brother who died in the war and a younger sibling who died at a very young age. Since my younger sibling was so young, our family didn't perform any chanting or rituals for them. Now that I understand more about these practices, I have started chanting sutras to dedicate merit to them. Will my chanting have any effect on those who passed away long ago? Please enlighten me on this matter. Thank you. Answer. As previously mentioned, prayers and chanting can indeed have an effect. Even if the person has been deceased for a long time, if we sincerely chant and dedicate merit to the departed souls, our prayers will have an impact. However, this impact primarily serves as a supportive condition, potentially helping them to turn their minds towards the path of spiritual practice. The key is that the person praying must be profoundly sincere and devoted in their actions, whether it's chanting sutras, reciting the Buddha's name, or performing other virtuous deeds. This sincere effort can resonate with the consciousness of the deceased. It's important to understand that the actual act of chanting and dedicating merit alone is not what leads to their liberation. Instead, it is more about creating favorable conditions that may inspire them to find their own path to spiritual awakening. This concept is illustrated in the story of Lady Avichi, which is discussed in the 100 Questions on Buddhism, Volume 1. To gain a deeper understanding, I recommend reading question 27 on page 68, which addresses whether prayers can truly lead to liberation for the deceased. I earnestly encourage you to continue your chanting, recitation of the Buddha's name, and performing virtuous deeds to dedicate merit to the deceased, whether they passed away recently or long ago, whether they were adults or children. This practice benefits them by creating favorable conditions for their spiritual progress. Additionally, you should also extend your prayers to all sentient beings, particularly those who died prematurely, wishing them a swift journey to liberation. Engaging in these practices not only brings significant benefits to you by nurturing compassion and virtue, but also provides some measure of assistance to the deceased. This aligns with the Buddhist principle of self-benefit and benefiting others. May you maintain good health and continue to practice diligently, achieving peace and liberation. 12. How to encourage family members to follow the Triple Gem and the benefits of dedication of merit. Question. Dear Venerable, I have 2 questions I hope you can clarify for me. 1. My children are kind-hearted and perform charitable deeds, but they haven't turned their minds towards the Triple Gem. I wish for them to direct their hearts towards the Triple Gem and cultivate mindfulness, but none of them follow my wishes. Is this due to their karmic conditions? What should I do? 2. I have a child who was born with a disability and another who is addicted to gambling. I believe these issues are due to their past karma. Therefore, I dedicate the merit of my chanting and mindfulness practice to them. Does this dedication benefit them? Answer 1. Encouraging family members towards the Triple Gem. Firstly, I am sincerely happy to hear that you have made some progress in your practice and that your life has become less burdensome as a result. Anyone who truly practices will inevitably experience some level of benefit and reduced suffering. This is a reality that reflects the law of cause and effect. Good deeds lead to good outcomes, while harmful actions bring about negative consequences. Your compassionate desire for your family members to also practice and benefit as you have is commendable. However, it's important to recognize that each person's karmic conditions and inclinations are different. Even family members can have vastly different spiritual inclinations and past karmic influences. In your eagerness to help them, it seems that your efforts have met with resistance. This reaction is understandable because everyone has their own path and timing. Trying to impose your wishes can sometimes lead to conflict and misunderstanding. Instead, focus on exemplifying the benefits of your practice through your own actions. When they see the peace and happiness you derive from your practice, they may become curious and more open to exploring it themselves. It's also crucial to understand that spiritual practice must be voluntary and cannot be forced. The Buddha himself never compelled anyone to follow his teachings, but simply presented the path and allowed individuals to make their own choices. In this spirit, offer your guidance gently and respectfully, and allow your family members to come to their own conclusions in their own time. 2. The benefits of dedication of merit. Regarding your second question, dedicating merit through chanting and mindfulness practice can indeed have some beneficial effects. However, it's important to understand the nature of these benefits. While your sincere practice and dedication of merit can create positive conditions, the ultimate change must come from the individuals themselves. For your child with a disability and the one struggling with gambling addiction, your prayers and dedications act as supportive conditions that can help create a favorable environment for their eventual awakening and transformation. However, they must ultimately take steps towards their own healing and growth. The story of Lady Vaidehi in Buddhist texts illustrates this principle well. Her own sincere efforts, coupled with the supportive actions of others, contributed to her progress on the spiritual path. Your dedicated efforts are valuable and meaningful, and while they may not directly change your children's immediate circumstances, they contribute positively to the overall conditions of their lives. In summary, continue your practice and dedication with a compassionate and patient heart. Understand that while you are creating positive conditions, the transformative journey of your children is their own. Encourage them gently and be a living example of the peace and benefits that the Triple Gem and mindfulness practice can bring. May your sincere efforts and loving dedication bring about positive changes and ultimate liberation for you and your family. How to atone for past harmful actions towards living beings. Question: Dear Venerable, when I was young, I used to boil fertilized duck eggs to sell during the Lunar New Year. Because I was young and didn't know about the Dharma, I committed a lot of acts of killing. Now that I am older and have learned about the Dharma, I am very fearful of the karma from those actions, and I currently suffer from many illnesses. I try to perform acts of generosity, make merit, and release living beings. Recently, witnessing the sudden death of a friend, I feel like I've awakened from a dream and have thought about ordaining, but I worry that my poor health will prevent me from practicing well. Venerable, please kindly advise me on what I should do. I am eternally grateful for your guidance. Answer: First, it's commendable and rare that you have come to feel remorse for your past wrongdoings. According to the law of karma, having sown seeds, we must inevitably reap the fruits. However, karma is not rigid but dynamic and adaptable. From the seed to the fruit, many supporting conditions influence the outcome. These supporting conditions can either be favorable or unfavorable, affecting the result. This is known as the principle of dependent origination in Buddhism. Good supporting conditions can lead to better outcomes, while bad conditions lead to worse ones. This is why the practice of Buddhism is aimed at transforming karma. If karma could not be changed, then our efforts in practice would be in vain. Because karma can be transformed, we practice and ultimately seek liberation. Regarding your situation, you shouldn't worry too much. Although you have committed many acts of killing in the past, it's not uncommon for people to have done so out of ignorance. The first precept in Buddhism prohibits killing, primarily emphasizing the protection of human life, which is considered the most precious. Avoiding the killing of other beings is also important, but it may not always be possible due to various survival needs. In your case, now that you are aware of the consequences of your actions and sincerely repent, you can still make amends through diligent practice and virtuous deeds. The Buddha taught that sincere repentance and consistent practice can mitigate the negative effects of past actions. Here are some steps you can take. 1. Repentance and sincere effort. Continue to acknowledge your past mistakes and repent sincerely. Dedicate yourself to performing acts of kindness and making merit, such as giving, helping others, and releasing living beings. 2. Consistent practice. Engage in regular chanting, meditation, and mindfulness practices. Dedicate the merit from these practices to all sentient beings and to those you may have harmed in the past. 3. Understanding karma. Accept that your current illnesses may be a result of past actions and face them with a calm and accepting mind. Realize that by accepting and enduring these difficulties, you are working through your past karma and reducing its impact. 4. Considering ordination. While ordination is a noble path, it requires strong commitment and physical capability. Given your health concerns, it may be more practical to continue your practice as a layperson. Focus on creating a disciplined practice routine at home. This can include setting up a daily schedule for chanting, meditation, and study of the Dharma. 5. Focus on the present. Concentrate on living ethically and mindfully in the present moment. This will help you create positive karma and support your spiritual growth. 6. Cultivate loving kindness and compassion. Develop a compassionate heart towards all beings, including yourself. This will help purify your mind and reduce suffering. By following these steps, you can effectively work towards atoning for your past actions and creating a more positive future. Your sincere efforts will contribute to your spiritual progress and help alleviate the karmic consequences of your past. Remember, the path to liberation is through continuous effort, mindfulness, and compassion. May you find peace, strength, and clarity on your spiritual journey. 14. Keeping pet fish at home. Is it sinful? Question. Dear Venerable, my daughter keeps ornamental fish at home for relaxation, especially when she's stressed from studying for exams. I'm worried if keeping these fish might be considered sinful. In the past, I wasn't aware of the Dharma, but now that I am, I'm very fearful of committing sins. Could you kindly provide some guidance on this matter? Answer. Sin originates from the mind. It depends on the intention behind an action, whether it is considered sinful or not. If the intention is malicious, leading to harmful actions or speech, then it constitutes a grave sin. Conversely, if the intention is good and leads to positive actions and speech, it results in positive karma. Therefore, whether an action is sinful or not is fundamentally based on the mind. An action becomes a sin when it involves all three aspects of karma: body, speech, and mind. Based on this fundamental principle, keeping ornamental fish, as your daughter does, cannot be conclusively considered sinful. Why? Because her intention is not harmful. She keeps the fish for enjoyment and relaxation, finding pleasure in feeding them and watching them swim gracefully. Moreover, this activity helps her relax and ease her mind when she is stressed from studying and exams. If she did not keep fish, she might keep other pets like dogs, cats, or birds. Should keeping all these pets be considered sinful? If so, why do some temples also keep these animals? Many temples have ponds for fish or keep dogs and cats. In my view, the sin lies not in keeping the fish, but in neglecting them. If we keep pets and fail to care for them properly, leaving them hungry and uncared for, that is when it becomes sinful. The sin is in neglecting their well-being. If we do not keep them, they would naturally find their own food. But if we keep them and then neglect to feed them regularly, causing them to go hungry, that is indeed a sin. In conclusion, you and your daughter need not worry. Keeping ornamental fish is not sinful if done with good intentions and proper care. The key is to ensure their well-being and not neglect them. Many young people in this country are very compassionate towards animals, showing them great love and care. This love for animals sometimes even surpasses their love for humans, which is a reality that cannot be denied. May you and your daughter find peace and continue to care for your pets with compassion and mindfulness. 15. How to apply the principle of Prajna in real life. Question. Dear Venerable, during our daily chanting sessions, we always recite the Heart Sutra at the end. The principle of Prajna in Buddhism emphasizes the concept of emptiness. However, in reality, life is full of dualities. For instance, people need to work to earn money to live, right livelihood, and they need means of transportation, vehicles, etc. This seems to fall into the concept of duality. Could you please kindly clarify how to understand and apply the principle of Prajna accurately to avoid falling into wrong views? Thank you very much. Answer: Buddhist teachings are categorized into different vehicles, teachings, and periods based on the capabilities and levels of understanding of sentient beings. Regarding vehicles, there are 5: human, heavenly, Shravaka, Pratyeka Buddha, and Bodhisattva. In terms of teachings, they are divided into various philosophies with varying depths and approaches. Prajna belongs to the Mahayana tradition. According to the classification by Master Tiantai Ji, the Buddha's teachings are divided into 5 periods: Avatamsaka, Agama, Vaipulya, Prajna, and Lotus Nirvana. The Prajna period is the 4th period, as summarized in the following verse: 21 days for Avatamsaka, 12 years for Agama, 8 for Vaipulya, 22 years for Prajna teachings, 8 years for Lotus and Nirvana. In the above summary, it is stated that the Buddha taught the Avatamsaka Sutra for the first 21 days, the Agama Sutras for 12 years, the Vaipulya Sutras for 8 years, the Prajna Sutras for 22 years, and the Lotus and Nirvana Sutras for the last 8 years. The entire Prajna Sutra system was later compiled into 600 volumes. The Heart Sutra, which we recite during our chanting sessions, is the essence of the entire Prajna Sutra system. This indicates the immense importance of the Heart Sutra. The core of Prajna teachings is to break attachments and eradicate all delusional attachments of sentient beings. Although sentient beings have many attachments, they can be summarized into 4 kinds: self, others, sentient beings, and lifespan, as mentioned in the Diamond Sutra. Generally, there are 2 main types of attachments: self-attachment and dharma attachment. The essence of the Prajna Sutras is the teaching of the emptiness, sunyata, of all phenomena. Because all phenomena arise from dependent origination, their true nature is emptiness. However, do not misunderstand emptiness as nothingness, like the horn of a rabbit or the fur of a turtle. The emptiness in Prajna refers to the true nature or the characteristic of emptiness of all phenomena. Understanding this concept of emptiness is to comprehend the entire Prajna Sutra system. Because the nature of all phenomena is emptiness, in this emptiness, there is no birth, no death, no impurity, no purity, etc. This means it transcends dualistic oppositions. Highlighting the philosophy of emptiness in Prajna, we see an immense realm of liberation where all delusional attachments of sentient beings are eradicated. To apply the principle of Prajna in our lives, especially for beginners like us, is not easy. We are living in a state of ignorance and deep attachments. We perceive all phenomena as real. Because of perceiving conditioned phenomena as real, we give rise to numerous afflictions like greed, anger, and delusion, which lead to creating karma and suffering in the cycle of birth and death. To escape the cycle of birth and death and suffering, the Buddha taught many methods. Although the methods are numerous, they can be broadly categorized into 2: sudden and gradual. Sudden practice is direct realization without using indirect means. Gradual practice involves step-by-step progress from coarse to subtle, from shallow to deep, and from low to high. For sudden practice, unless one has supreme faculties and wisdom, it is difficult to achieve the desired results. Gradual practice, which involves step-by-step progress, is suitable for all levels of practitioners. It is like climbing a ladder, step by step, from low to high. For lay Buddhists, the initial practice involves taking refuge in the 3 jewels and observing the 5 precepts. Progressing further, they practice the 10 virtuous deeds to be reborn in the heavens and enjoyed blissful rewards. These are the fundamental practices for lay Buddhists. However, if a lay practitioner becomes proficient in these basic practices, they may also apply other methods. They have the right to choose a method that suits them, one that aligns with their capabilities, level of understanding, and current living circumstances. Lay practitioners should be cautious not to overreach, which might lead to failure. When practicing, lay Buddhists should know their limits. They should not strive for things beyond their reach. It is important to recognize one's current position and responsibilities. Regarding the path to liberation, the Buddha provided two clear paths, one leading to continued existence in the cycle of birth and death to enjoy rewards, and the other leading to liberation from the cycle of birth and death and suffering. The path of continued existence involves taking refuge in the three jewels and observing the 5 precepts, as well as practicing the 10 virtuous deeds. The path to liberation includes many methods like the 4 Noble Truths, the 12 links of dependent origination, the 6 perfections, etc., which transcend dualistic oppositions, meaning the practitioner does not get entangled in dualities and must eradicate ignorance and afflictions. When applying these methods, the practitioner must rely entirely on self-effort. Additionally, there's another method suitable for all levels of practitioners, which includes both self-effort and some external help. This is the Pure Land method, a straightforward path suitable for today's practitioners. This method emphasizes reciting the Buddha's name. Recitation can be either based on principle or practice. In practice, the practitioner focuses on reciting the 6-character name of Amitabha Buddha consistently to seek rebirth in the Pure Land. In principle, the practitioner lets go of everything, leaving only the pure and luminous mind present, like a mirror reflecting without being stained by any object. At this stage, the practitioner is not reciting but is in a state of mindfulness. The Vimalakirti Sutra describes this as, depending on the purity of the mind, so is the purity of the Buddha land, or the Pure Land is within the mind. This means that the Pure Land is present in the current moment if the mind is pure. These are some of the practices the Buddha taught, which I briefly outline for lay Buddhists to choose from. After selecting and applying a practice, lay Buddhists should consult and learn from virtuous monks with extensive experience in practice. This will help ensure progress and avoid falling into wrong views. May you succeed in your practice and learning. 16. When visiting the temple to observe 8 precepts, does utilizing offerings from devotees bring guilt? Question: Dear Venerable, when I go to the temple to observe the 8 precepts and consume food offered by devotees, am I committing any wrongdoing? Please explain so that I can ease my mind. Thank you. Answer: Your cautious concern about committing wrongs, though perhaps unnecessary, is commendable. It shows that you consider your actions carefully, especially regarding matters of spiritual significance, which is admirable. However, you should remember that your primary purpose for going to the temple is to learn and practice the Dharma, not to cause trouble, so there is no need to fear committing wrongdoing. When you consume offerings from devotees, it is for the purpose of engaging in wholesome practice and not for any unwholesome activities. Therefore, there is no guilt associated with it. Some people worry about burdening the temple, especially the kitchen staff, and might consider bringing their own food. While this is a kind thought, it is usually unnecessary. The temple is a place where everyone can come to practice, create good karma with the 3 jewels, and cultivate blessings. Everyone benefits in different ways, whether through service or making offerings. The key is for each person to manage their afflictions while practicing. Maintaining purity of body, speech, and mind is essential. If everyone practices diligently in a harmonious and supportive environment, it is of immense value and beauty. Sometimes, people only see immediate benefits without considering long-term consequences. Bringing your own food might seem self-sufficient, but it can lead to a sense of complacency and distraction from diligent practice. On the other hand, consuming offerings from devotees might make you feel more accountable and serious about your practice, knowing you don't want to waste their effort. It's important to emphasize that any wrongdoing would arise not from consuming the offerings, but from engaging in unwholesome actions at the temple. Those who disrupt the peace, create conflicts, or act out of ego and self-importance are the ones committing offenses. They misuse the offerings and the temple's resources. In contrast, your intention to observe the 8 precepts, follow the monastery's schedule, and engage in sincere practice does not constitute wrongdoing. You honor the offerings by using them to foster spiritual growth. In summary, your concern is good, but it is misplaced. As long as you come to the temple with a sincere heart to practice, you are creating merit and growing in wisdom. The real issue would be not coming to the temple to practice. By attending and observing the precepts, you are following the path of the renunciants, aiming for enlightenment and liberation. This brings blessings rather than guilt. I encourage you to continue your diligent practice, following the temple's guidelines, and wish you clear wisdom, steadfast Bodhi mind, and swift progress on your path to enlightenment. May you attain your goals through diligent practice. If at the moment of death I remember the Buddha but do not see him, can I still be reborn in the Pure Land? Question: Dear Venerable, I have had the fortunate opportunity to practice Pure Land Buddhism for nearly 2 years. I find great peace whenever I recite the Buddha's name, and I strive to maintain right mindfulness in my heart. When the time of impermanence comes, if I remember and recite the Buddha's name but do not see Amitabha Buddha coming to receive me, can I still be reborn in the Pure Land? Please kindly clarify so that I can be at peace. Thank you. Answer: I am very pleased and rejoice in your progress. Although you have been practicing for only 2 years, you have made considerable progress. Finding peace while reciting the Buddha's name is indeed excellent. However, you should be cautious because the habitual tendencies of afflictions in humans are deeply ingrained. In the sutras, the Buddha teaches that only when we attain the state of an arhat, having eradicated all defilements of delusion and afflictions, should we truly trust in our minds. As long as defilements, even very subtle ones, remain in the mind, they can cause disturbances and unease. When reciting the Buddha's name, if your mind becomes settled, the duration and stability of this state depend on the consistency and depth of your practice. However, what we often perceive as a settled mind might just be the temporary absence of gross defilements, while subtle ones still linger. True purification of the mind means reaching the state of a sage. Maintaining right mindfulness is not easy. Right mindfulness means remembering and being aware of what is happening in the present moment without getting caught up in thoughts of the past or future. During recitation, your mind should focus solely on the Buddha's name with no extraneous thoughts. Achieving this aligns with the concept of right mindfulness. Right mindfulness should be upheld not just during recitation, but throughout all activities. This prevents the mind from becoming scattered and distracted. This is challenging, and if it were easy, we would all be Buddhas and patriarchs by now. Each moment of right mindfulness brings peace and happiness, while distraction leads to suffering. Regarding your question about the time of death, if you remember Amitabha Buddha but do not see him coming to guide you, should you be concerned about not being reborn in the Pure Land? Rest assured, Amitabha Buddha will not abandon or disappoint you. Even if you do not see him at that crucial moment, you can still attain rebirth in the Pure Land because your mind has connected with him. The 48 vows of Amitabha Buddha include the vow to receive and guide beings to his Pure Land, provided they sincerely recite his name and perform good deeds. With such compassionate vows, how could he abandon you? The real concern is whether you can maintain mindfulness and recall Amitabha Buddha during the pain and disturbances of the final moments. Given your current practice and the peace you find in recitation, I believe that at the moment of death, you will be guided by Amitabha Buddha to the Pure Land. Like a child longing for their mother, you sincerely remember the Buddha, and he, with his infinite compassion, will surely remember and guide you. The key is to continue practicing diligently and increase your recitation. While it is easy to feel peaceful during normal times, it is crucial to remain mindful and remember the Buddha during unexpected or challenging moments. Self-awareness is essential. Understanding our own mind and maintaining consistent practice is the path. I pray that the Buddha's power blesses you with health, steadfast practice, and the fulfillment of your aspirations for rebirth in the Pure Land. 18. Worshipping deceased ancestors in multiple places. Question: Dear Venerable, can we worship deceased family members, such as parents and grandparents, in multiple places? For instance, if there are many children and siblings in a family, and each wants to have a separate altar for the deceased, would this be against any rules or regulations? Answer: according to traditional customs, ancestor worship was usually conducted in a single place known as the Ancestral Hall. This is the common house for family worship. On memorial days, all descendants and relatives would gather at this location to perform the rituals. In the past, these ceremonies were often elaborate, especially for wealthy families who could afford comprehensive rituals. However, poorer families would offer simpler ceremonies. The purpose of ancestor worship is to remember and honor the deceased as if they were still living. Traditionally, it is believed that the spirits of ancestors continue to exist and stay beside their descendants, offering protection and blessings for the family's health and prosperity. Hence, ancestor worship is a significant tradition in Vietnamese culture. Today, the situation has changed. Although the Vietnamese continue to uphold this cultural tradition, the circumstances of modern life have necessitated some adjustments. Many Vietnamese people live scattered in different places around the world due to work or other special circumstances. Families with many children might have members living far apart, making it inconvenient to gather in one place for memorials. Therefore, it has become necessary to be flexible and allow for ancestor worship in multiple locations. The important thing is that even though descendants might worship their ancestors in different places, their prayers and intentions are unified. For instance, if parents pass away in Vietnam or the US, a child living in Australia can still set up an altar to worship them. In my view, there is nothing wrong with this practice. Due to unavoidable circumstances, this form of worship is an expression of remembrance, rather than a literal expectation that the ancestors depend on these offerings. We should understand that the tradition of ancestor worship symbolizes gratitude and respect for our roots, reflecting a profound and beautiful filial piety in Vietnamese culture. This practice represents the cultural heritage that has deep roots in the nation's history and continues to hold value. In essence, worshiping ancestors in multiple places due to practical reasons is permissible. It reflects the enduring spirit of honoring our ancestors and maintaining cultural traditions, regardless of geographical separation. 19. Offering alms to monks for the deceased. Proper practice. Question: Dear Venerable, please explain to me the proper way to offer alms to monks for the deceased. When a loved one passes away in a certain place, should we only make offerings in that place, or can we do it elsewhere? For example, if a loved one passes away in the US, can I offer alms to monks in Vietnam? Kindly provide clarity on this matter. Thank you. Answer: Offering alms to monks is a practice that honors the filial piety exemplified by the Venerable Muhammad Ghaliyan. He was the first to organize an alms offering ceremony to monks to pray for his mother's salvation, following the Buddha's guidance. This ceremony, traditionally held by Mahayana Buddhists on the 15th day of the 7th lunar month, coincides with the conclusion of the monastic summer retreat. Following this tradition, Buddhists often arrange alms offerings for the deceased, usually on the 49th day memorial. This can be held either at a temple or at home, depending on the family's circumstances, though it is more common to conduct the ceremony at a temple due to the convenience it offers. Typically, before the memorial day, family members visit the temple, often where the deceased's ashes are kept, to discuss the offering with the abbot or resident monks, nuns. This allows the temple to organize and invite the necessary clergy. The number of participating monks or nuns is determined by the family. The primary purpose of this ceremony is to express the family's respect, gratitude, and filial piety towards the deceased. The family offers food and other essentials to the monastic community, seeking their blessings and prayers for the deceased's swift rebirth into a favorable realm. Regarding your question, whether offerings must be made at the place of the deceased's passing or elsewhere, the answer is that it can be done anywhere without issue. As mentioned, it depends on the family's living situation. You can perform the offering wherever it is convenient, even if the loved one passed away elsewhere. For instance, if your parent passed away in Vietnam or anywhere else and you cannot be there, you can still make offerings in Australia, where you reside. However, it is often preferred to hold the ceremony in a location where many family members can gather. This not only helps maintain the family's connection with the three jewels, but also provides comfort to the deceased spirit through the presence of loved ones. In summary, offering alms to monks can be flexibly arranged according to your circumstances, ensuring the ceremony's integrity and the family's heartfelt intention. Whether conducted at the place of passing or elsewhere, the key is the sincerity and respect behind the offering. I wish you peace, diligent practice, and swift fulfillment of your aspirations. 20. Where Buddhism arrives, peace follows. What does it mean? Question. Dear Venerable, last year when I attended the Vesak celebration in Vietnam, I saw a banner saying, "Where Buddhism arrives, peace follows." Some people disagreed with this statement. I understand its meaning, but my knowledge is limited, so I didn't dare to explain. Please kindly elaborate on this for us to understand better. Answer. Disagreement is their right. Perhaps they haven't had the chance to understand Buddhism. If one doesn't understand, one should seek knowledge. Making a definitive statement without thorough understanding shows a lack of caution. Anyone who has studied Buddhism, even a little, would certainly not make such careless remarks. This phrase represents a significant theme. Within the scope of this answer, I will briefly discuss its essence. The statement, although concise, encapsulates the Buddhist principles of compassion, altruism, and equality. Buddhism has always advocated for and encouraged humanity to live in peace. From ancient times until now, and likely for eternity, Buddhism has consistently upheld this principle. The history of human civilization clearly demonstrates this through Buddhism's dissemination over time. Wherever Buddhism spreads, it brings love, justice, and fosters peace, happiness, and joy for humanity. It can be said that throughout its history, the spread of Buddhism has never caused any bloodshed. This is a unique feature of Buddhism's long history. Conflicts leading to hatred and war are not inherent to human nature. The fundamental nature of humans is non-violent, valuing freedom and peace. Buddhism asserts that peace or war is not something to be sought externally. It resides within each person's heart. According to Buddhism, the primary force causing conflict and war is ignorance, manifested as greed, hatred, and delusion. As long as humanity harbors these three toxic seeds, living peacefully together remains an elusive dream. To achieve peace, one must eliminate the internal causes of conflict. In other words, one must continually recognize and transform ignorance and afflictions. These are the root causes of all suffering, making the world chaotic and unstable. A clear example today is the global outcry against the destruction of Earth, primarily caused by human greed. Every day, humans release immense amounts of toxic gases, increasingly worsening environmental pollution. Natural disasters occurring worldwide are nature's warnings. Additionally, numerous other social evils persist. All these issues stem from human actions. Honestly, humanity's existence today feels precarious, like standing on the edge of a cliff, not knowing when they might fall. Realizing the collective suffering and immense shared karma of humanity, Buddhism urges people to find ways to save themselves. According to Buddhism, the only way to liberate oneself from this collective suffering is through deep self-reflection to transform unwholesome seeds, the internal causes of suffering for oneself and others. This is the path to resolving conflicts, hatred, discord, jealousy, and discrimination which lie deep within each individual. Only then can humanity truly expand their hearts to embrace tolerance, forgiveness, and love, living together harmoniously as brothers. Buddhism has always exerted its utmost effort in contributing to societal development, aiming to heal humanity's wounds through compassion, altruism, and equality. In conclusion, the phrase, "Where Buddhism arrives, peace follows," succinctly captures Buddhism's enduring commitment to fostering peace and harmony wherever it is practiced, emphasizing inner transformation as the path to external peace. 21. Taking the Bodhisattva Precepts but not attending temple to repent and recite precepts. Is it a violation? Question. Dear Venerable, I have taken the Bodhisattva Precepts, but sometimes I am unable to attend the temple for repentance and reciting the precepts. Does this mean I am violating the precepts or committing an offense? Answer. Firstly, let me assure you that you are not violating the precepts nor committing any offenses. According to the Vinaya monastic discipline, after taking the Bodhisattva Precepts, it is ideal to go to the temple every half-month to repent with the community and listen to the precepts you have received. The term Bodhisattva comes from Sanskrit, and in Chinese it is translated as growing in purity. Growing means to nurture, and purity means to be pure or peaceful. Together, these terms imply nurturing wholesome qualities and purifying karma. The purpose is to keep your body and mind pure, which is the essence of the term bodhisattva. Why do we need to recite or listen to the precepts every half month? Because our mind tends to wander and cling to worldly matters, like a monkey always jumping around. With such a restless mind, how can we avoid making mistakes? The precepts established by the Buddha are meant to prevent wrongful actions. By observing the precepts, we gain freedom, happiness, and liberation. Precepts have such significant benefits that once we have received them, we must respect and maintain them. To maintain them effectively, we need to listen to and study the precepts regularly. Therefore, Bodhisattva ceremonies are opportunities to remind us of the precepts we have taken, as our nature is prone to forgetfulness. Thus, we need to recite or listen to the precepts every half month. However, if due to illness or some other important reason you cannot attend the temple for repentance and the Bodhisattva ceremony, you can send a proxy request, which means asking someone of the same precept group to inform the community on your behalf. This is also legitimate. If you have a prolonged illness or no means to get to the temple, you can inform the community that you will be repenting and reciting the precepts at home. There's nothing wrong with this. In summary, the Bodhisattva ceremony offers the following practical benefits. Reinforcement of precepts. Listening to the precepts you have taken helps you remember them deeply and maintain them carefully. It also nurtures wholesome qualities and purifies your body and mind, enhancing awareness of impermanence and the swift passage of time, motivating you to practice diligently for liberation. Repentance. If you have violated fundamental precepts or committed minor offenses in the past half month, you can confess and repent before the community. This helps dissipate karmic obstacles and purifies your body and mind. Support from the community. The Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, 3 jewels, witness and support your practice, and the strong collective energy of the community helps increase your merit and spiritual strength, enhancing your progress in practice. These are some of the practical benefits of the Bodhisattva ceremony. Should one learn the Bodhisattva precepts before taking them? Question. Dear Venerable, I wish to take the Bodhisattva precepts, but I do not yet understand what the Bodhisattva precepts entail. Can I learn about the precepts first and then take them later? Please advise. Answer. This practice is not permitted according to the Vinaya, monastic discipline, for several reasons. 1. Potential discouragement. If you study the precepts in detail before taking them, you may find them too difficult and become discouraged, leading to a loss of resolve to take the precepts. Without taking the precepts, you may lack the commitment to maintain them, which could result in a more relaxed and undisciplined lifestyle, hindering your progress on the path to liberation. 2. Risk of arrogance. Learning the precepts beforehand may lead you to criticize those who have already taken the precepts, but do not observe them perfectly. This could give rise to pride, arrogance, and a sense of superiority, which are detrimental attitudes that add to your karmic burden and provide no real benefit. 3. Commitment to learning. After taking the precepts, you will feel a sense of responsibility to learn and uphold them carefully. This commitment encourages you to study diligently, maintain moral conduct, and progress more swiftly on the path to enlightenment. Fear of violating the precepts will motivate you to protect your spiritual integrity. Because of these potential pitfalls, the Buddha forbade novice monks from secretly listening to or reading the precepts of fully ordained monks or the Bodhisattva precepts. If a novice secretly listens, they are prohibited from taking those precepts later. This precaution applies to lay practitioners as well. Therefore, if you wish to advance rapidly on the path to liberation, it is advisable to take the precepts first and then study them. This approach aligns with the traditional sequence of taking and learning precepts as outlined in the Vinaya. May you remain steadfast and progress continuously on the path of learning and practice, attaining peace and liberation. 23. Are the concepts of Nirvana and the Pure Land similar or different? Question. Dear Venerable, someone mentioned that the meanings of Nirvana and the Pure Land are the same. I'm not sure if this is correct. Could you kindly clarify this for us? Answer. The statement is partially correct but not entirely. If we consider the conceptual essence, their meanings are similar. Nirvana represents a state of tranquil, blissful liberation. Similarly, the Pure Land or Sukhavati also signifies a state of ultimate, pure joy and freedom. Both transcend dualistic notions and are characterized by an uncreated, unending reality. In this regard, they are conceptually similar. However, when we examine the phenomenal aspect, the realms and meanings of Nirvana and the Pure Land differ significantly. Nirvana is not an external realm with concrete physical attributes. Some mistakenly perceive Nirvana as a wondrous realm where beings go after death to enjoy blissful rewards. This understanding is incorrect. Nirvana is an internal state achieved through the eradication of ignorance and afflictions. It is akin to purifying impurities to reveal pure gold or clearing clouds to reveal the moon. Nirvana is the ultimate state of cessation and complete liberation. In contrast, the Pure Land is an external realm with concrete physical attributes, described vividly in the Amitabha Sutra. It is depicted as a realm adorned with 7 precious materials, exuding extraordinary beauty and purity. Everything in this realm, from the environment to the beings, is supremely magnificent and blissful. The existence of this realm is known through the teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha, who introduced it to us. The Pure Land, currently presided over by Amitabha Buddha, represents an advanced civilization with supreme material and spiritual qualities. It is a highly developed society with exceptional moral and ethical education. The inhabitants are all virtuous and delightful beings. Compared to the Saha world, our world, the Pure Land is vastly superior, hence inspiring practitioners here to aspire and diligently chant Amitabha Buddha's name to be reborn there. In summary, Nirvana and the Pure Land are conceptually similar when viewed from the perspective of essence. However, they are phenomenally distinct. Yet, if integrated wisely in practice, both Nirvana and the Pure Land originate from our own mind. The scriptures state, "All is mind, all phenomena are consciousness." Like rivers flowing into the ocean and rivers differ, but the essence of water remains the same. Nirvana and the Pure Land arise from our mind. Achieving single-minded focus leads to the cessation of all phenomena. May you be blessed with the merits and good fortune to advance continually on the path of studying and practicing the Dharma, achieving your aspirations. 24. Wearing a prayer bead bracelet in the bathroom. Is it wrong? Dear Venerable, I usually wear a prayer bead bracelet for reciting Buddha's name. However, I often wear it when going to the bathroom. Is this wrong? Answer: you can rest assured that it is not wrong at all. The primary intention behind wearing the prayer beads is to aid in your recitation of the Buddha's name, which is a very good and virtuous intention. You should not be overly concerned with formalities. The crucial point is whether you consistently remember to recite the Buddha's name while wearing the beads. That is what truly matters. Wearing the bracelet in the bathroom does not present any issue because it is a natural and ordinary human activity. No one will hold you accountable for it, so there is no need to worry. The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas do not discriminate in the same mundane way that ordinary beings do. They do not see purity or impurity, and thus would not find fault with you for this. It would be impractical to remove the bracelet every time you use the bathroom, and then where would you keep it safely during that time? This would introduce additional complications. Some people wear small Buddha pendants around their necks and still wear them into the bathroom. Should they remove them every time they need to use the restroom? Your practice should be adaptable and flexible. Being too rigid about such formalities can hinder your practice. Similarly, some female practitioners refrain from reciting sutras or chanting the Buddha's name during their menstrual periods, fearing impurity and sin. I have already addressed this concern in detail in the first volume of 100 Questions About Buddhism. Please refer to that book for a more thorough explanation, which should help alleviate any doubts or fears you may have. Wishing you peace of mind in your practice and swift attainment of your aspirations. 25. The meaning of celebrating the anniversary of Maitreya Buddha at the beginning of the year. Question: Dear Venerable, I don't understand why on New Year's Eve, temples in many Buddhist households hold ceremonies to celebrate the anniversary of Maitreya Buddha. What is the significance of this celebration? Please kindly explain. Thank you. Answer: the tradition of celebrating the anniversary of Maitreya Buddha has been around for a long time. However, why do people choose the first day of the Lunar New Year as the day to commemorate him? According to my research, I have not found any clear source explaining this. In the book, Spring in the Monastery by Venerable Thich Thanh Tu, published in 1997, the Venerable explains that the choice of the first day of the Lunar New Year by temples and most Buddhists to celebrate his anniversary was created by the Chinese patriarchs. There are no historical records of his birth date. According to history, Bodhisattva Maitreya was a real historical figure in India during the Buddha's time. Maitreya is a Sanskrit word, and in Chinese it is translated as Shi, the benevolent one. Shi means his clan, and Si refers to compassion. There are various theories about his name and lineage. He is also known as Ajita, Sanskrit, which translates to invincible in Chinese. Commonly, we call him Maitreya Buddha, but he is actually a bodhisattva destined to become a Buddha, currently residing in the inner sanctum of Tusita heaven. According to Shakyamuni Buddha's prophecy, he will descend to the world in the future, attain Buddhahood under the dragon flower tree, and be honored as Maitreya Buddha. Today, in Mahayana Buddhist temples, Maitreya is depicted as a chubby, joyful figure with a big belly and a wide smile. Some statues show him surrounded by 6 children pulling his ears, eyes, and mouth, symbolizing that no matter how the 6 senses, sight, hearing, smell, taste, touch, and mind, are disturbed by the 6 objects, form, sound, smell, taste, touch, and dharma, his mind remains unmoved as his senses are completely purified. This image is based on the manifestation of Maitreya as a laughing monk known as Budai in the 10th century in China. But how do we know Budai was a manifestation of Maitreya? Before passing away, Budai left a verse: Maitreya, true Maitreya, in billions of forms, constantly teaching people, yet people do not know him. This verse revealed that Budai was indeed a manifestation of Maitreya. Returning to your question, why choose the first day of the Lunar New Year as his anniversary? Normally, anniversaries commemorate a birth or death date, but this is not the case here. The deeper meaning in Zen tradition chosen by the patriarchs is that people in East Asia, particularly in Vietnam, place great importance on the first day of the year. They believe it determines the fortune or misfortune for the entire year. Therefore, Buddhists celebrate the anniversary of Bodhisattva Maitreya on this day to wish for a year of happiness and peace. Maitreya is known for his practice of joy and equanimity, always depicted with a cheerful and peaceful smile. Diluk sits with a stone belly, dust clings and falls away amidst the ups and downs of life with a serene, joyful smile. The ultimate aspiration of practitioners is to become a Buddha. More immediately, they wish for happiness. To achieve this, Buddhists should follow Maitreya's example of joy and equanimity. Compassion, loving kindness, joy, and equanimity are the 4 immeasurable minds of a bodhisattva, and Maitreya embodies these qualities. His face always reflects joy and peace. Only by letting go of internal afflictions can one truly find happiness. This is true happiness. Thus, when commemorating him at the beginning of the year, Buddhists hope to become like him in the future and vow to practice his joyful and equanimous conduct. This way, they will enjoy many benefits and happiness throughout the year. Otherwise, they will face much suffering. This is the main reason why Buddhists commemorate Maitreya at the beginning of the year. May you enjoy a joyful Maitreya spring and always be happy with a smile of joy and equanimity on your face. 26. The issue of observing noble silence. Dear Venerable, in both short and long-term retreats, I see some Buddhists make a vow to observe absolute noble silence, not speaking at all. When necessary, they use gestures or write notes. I don't understand whether this practice is in accordance with the Buddhist scriptures. Some even say it's more like being mute rather than observing noble silence. Could you please clarify this for us? Thank you very much. Observing noble silence means maintaining the purity of one's speech. The word silence here signifies purity and calmness. The mouth is merely an organ or tool for speaking. In the Buddhist scriptures, it is often advised that Buddhists should always guard their 3 karmas: body, speech, and mind. Among these 3, aside from the mind, which is the principal actor, the karma of speech is also very significant. To be precise, we should talk about guarding the karma of speech, meaning the habit of speaking. There are 4 types of speech: lying, speaking falsely about things that did not happen, or denying things that did happen, embellishing words, and speaking with a double tongue, causing discord between people. Additionally, speaking harshly, cursing, or using abusive language falls into this category. In Buddhist terms, these are called false speech, divisive speech, harsh speech, and idle chatter. These 4 types of speech create negative karma through the mouth, thus called speech karma. However, if we use kind, truthful, harmonious, loving, and constructive words, then we are skillfully purifying our speech karma. This means we are consciously using our speech in a positive, beneficial manner, which is the true meaning of observing noble silence. We should only speak when necessary and ensure our words are spoken with understanding, empathy, and mindfulness. Such speech will undoubtedly bring practical benefits to both ourselves and others. In this sense, observing noble silence does not mean complete muteness. According to Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh, noble silence is a profound practice, not just the prohibition of speech. Noble silence does not simply mean not talking. It means contemplating with our mindfulness what we intend to say. However, during retreats, if a Buddhist finds that they have no specific duties, it is beneficial to vow to observe noble silence, not speaking to keep their mind calm and focused on chanting Buddha's name. In my opinion, this is also very good, but it may not fully capture the deeper meaning of noble silence as explained above. The practice of noble silence depends on the situation, and sometimes the Buddha praised it, while other times he criticized it among his monastic disciples. He praised it when he saw the assembly exchanging views on the practice in a loving, harmonious, and united manner. He criticized it when some monks remained completely silent, even when they knew they were practicing incorrectly, but did not raise the issue for discussion. Such absolute silence is not in the spirit of noble silence as taught by the Buddha. It is acknowledged that maintaining silence is good, but it must be appropriate to the situation. Instead of verbal speech, using gestures or writing notes is also a form of communication, differing only in the method. Therefore, it is best to speak, but only when necessary and with kind, gentle words. This is the best way to observe noble silence and is in accordance with the Buddha's teachings. Those who have a habit of talking too much should use retreats as an opportunity to practice noble silence and reduce their speech. By observing noble silence in this way, our body and mind will find peace and our practice will genuinely progress. May you progress significantly in your practice. 27. Can I chant the Buddha's name while lying down? Question: Dear Venerable, I am now over 80 years old and suffer from back pain, making it difficult to sit for long periods. I wonder if it is appropriate to chant the Buddha's name while lying down. Some people say that chanting while lying down is disrespectful and carries a fault. Could you kindly clarify this for me? Thank you. Answer: The Buddha often taught us to chant the Buddha's name in 4 postures: walking, standing, lying down, and sitting. This means chanting the Buddha's name at all times and in all places. Therefore, chanting while lying down is not inherently problematic. However, when lying down to chant, you should not chant aloud. Chanting aloud while lying down can be considered disrespectful. If you chant silently, there is no issue. Chanting in a seated position tends to help one achieve a more focused mind and reduces the likelihood of drowsiness compared to chanting while lying down, which can often lead to sleep. Given your condition with back pain and the difficulty of sitting for long periods, you can adapt by alternating among the 4 postures while chanting. For those who practice Pure Land Buddhism, it is essential to adapt your chanting practice to your physical condition, health, and circumstances. One should not be overly rigid about form, as this can hinder your progress in chanting the Buddha's name. Here, I will briefly explain the 4 methods of chanting the Buddha's name aloud, as taught in the Buddhist scriptures, to give you a better understanding. According to the patriarchs of the Pure Land School, there are 4 ways to chant aloud. 1. Loud chanting. 2. Soft chanting. 3. Diamond chanting. And 4. Silent chanting. 1. Loud chanting. This method involves chanting the Buddha's name loudly, especially when in a group. Although chanting loudly, everyone must maintain harmony with each other. Each person's voice should be in unison without overpowering others. If chanting alone, loud chanting helps suppress distracting thoughts because the loud sound makes it difficult for stray thoughts to arise. However, this method can deplete your energy. 2. Soft chanting. This involves chanting in a low voice, just enough for yourself to hear. This method is less exhausting than loud chanting and is useful when loud chanting becomes tiring. 3. Diamond chanting. This method involves moving your lips without making any sound. The benefit of this method is that it allows you to chant faster without losing energy. Master Dao Yuan taught that with this method, you can chant more Buddha names in the same amount of time without getting tired. However, even with diamond chanting, one should not be too rigid and should adjust as necessary. 4. Silent chanting. This method involves chanting internally without moving the lips. This is a silent mental recitation. This method requires great care and attentiveness because the mind tends to wander easily. While lying down, you can practice silent chanting. Chanting aloud in a lying position, as taught by the patriarchs, is considered disrespectful. In summary, you can adapt these 4 methods of chanting the Buddha's name to your circumstances. Do not feel obligated to follow any single method rigidly. The practice of chanting the Buddha's name should be flexible and adapt to your physical condition, health, and environment, as it is a lifelong practice requiring perseverance and dedication. Therefore, if you find it difficult to sit for long periods, chanting silently while lying down is permissible and carries no fault. The scriptures are clear on this matter. You can even chant silently while using the restroom, though you should not chant aloud in non-pure places, as that would be disrespectful. There are no issues with silent chanting in such situations. For more detailed information, I recommend reading additional Buddhist texts. May you find peace and happiness in both body and mind, and may your practice lead to swift attainment of your aspirations. 28. Making a will and authorization when approaching death. Question. Dear Venerable, I am practicing the Buddha recitation method, and I want to ensure that during my final moments and after my death, my mind and body can depart peacefully without any obstacles hindering my rebirth in the Pure Land. Do I need to make a will and authorize someone? How should I go about this? Please kindly guide me so I can be at ease when the time comes. Thank you. Answer. This is indeed a very important issue. For a lifetime of practice, especially for those practicing Buddha recitation, encountering even a small obstacle during the final moments or after death can disrupt one's focus and hinder one's aspiration to be reborn in the Pure Land. Not everyone understands how to assist a dying person to depart peacefully without external disturbances. Doctors and nurses, while responsible for monitoring and treating our illnesses, often perform their duties without considering the spiritual needs of the dying or the deceased. They are primarily concerned with their professional responsibilities and might not be aware of the significance of aiding someone's peaceful departure or rebirth. To ensure that they understand and respect our spiritual beliefs, we should express our wishes clearly to them. This way, they can respond to our needs appropriately instead of just following their standard procedures, which might cause significant disturbances to our goal of rebirth in the Pure Land. Family members, out of deep affection and attachment, may act based on their emotions rather than respecting the wishes of the dying person. Many people do not understand the importance of assisting the dying during their last moments and after death. According to the scriptures, it takes about 8 hours for the consciousness to completely leave the body. Without proper care during this period, a peaceful departure can turn into a distressing experience. Thus, assisting the dying during this critical time is extremely important. Misunderstanding how to properly assist can lead to well-intentioned actions causing harm. People may even unintentionally cause anger or distress to the dying person, making it difficult for them to achieve a peaceful rebirth. Moreover, some individuals might attempt to convert the dying person to another faith during moments of weakness. Without the guidance of a good spiritual advisor, the person may lose their focus and faith, leading them astray at a critical time. Therefore, it is wise to prepare a clear will and authorization document to avoid any misunderstandings or unintended consequences. This is a way to ensure a relatively smooth and peaceful transition. By making our wishes known and appointing someone responsible, we can better secure our aspiration for rebirth in the Pure Land. To address this, you should create a will and an authorization document detailing your wishes regarding your medical care and spiritual practices during your final moments and after death. This document should be shared with your family members, spiritual leaders, and medical professionals. Here is a suggested approach. 1. Drafting the will and authorization document. Clearly state your wishes regarding medical care and spiritual practices during your final moments and after death. Appoint responsible individuals to oversee your care and ensure your wishes are followed. Specify the need for uninterrupted recitation of Buddha's name and other spiritual practices for at least 8 hours after death. 2. Distribution. Make multiple copies of the document, with one side in English and the other in Vietnamese. Sign each copy and have 3 witnesses sign and initial each copy. Alternatively, have the head monk at your temple stamp and certify the document. Give copies to your spouse, children, spiritual advisor, and family doctor. Keep 1 copy for yourself. By preparing in this way, you can be at peace knowing that your wishes will be respected and followed, ensuring a smooth and peaceful transition. This method provides the best preparation for a favorable final transition and rebirth in the Pure Land. I've only outlined the general approach here. For more detailed guidance, consult with experienced legal advisors and respected spiritual leaders. Wishing you success in your practice and fulfillment of your aspirations. 29. Unintentional killing. Is it considered a sin? Question. Dear Venerable, I was bitten quite deeply by my neighbor's dog due to my carelessness, so I went to the hospital for treatment and reported it to the council. Later, I still saw the dog wandering around. While the owner was away, I called the council to catch the dog because I feared it might bite others. However, the council caught and euthanized it. Hearing this news, I felt very remorseful and sorrowful for its death. Please, Venerable, tell me, did I commit the sin of killing? Answer. In this situation, I believe you did not commit the sin of killing. Here's why I can assert this with confidence. I am basing my judgment on Buddhist precepts. According to the precepts, a sin is formed through the combination of the 3 karmas, body, speech, and mind, with mind karma being the primary initiator. Examining the mind karma, you did not have the malicious intent to kill the dog. Your intention was to prevent it from biting others as it had bitten you. Your concern was for the safety of others, which indicates a good intention. Therefore, you reported it to the council so they could catch and restrain it. You intended for it to be captured, not killed. The council's decision to euthanize the dog was their responsibility, not yours. Your intent was only to inform them to catch the dog because its owner was not around. The council decided to euthanize it, likely because they knew the dog had a history of biting and was roaming freely. Therefore, the responsibility for the act lies with the council, not you. Regarding the 3 karmas, mind karma, you had no intention of killing the dog. Speech karma, you reported it to be caught, not killed. Body karma, you did not physically harm or kill the dog. You did not personally kill the dog, instruct someone else to kill it, nor did you rejoice in its death. Thus, based on these 3 aspects of the precept against killing, you did not violate any of them. If there is any fault, it would be minor and related to reporting the incident, which was motivated by a good intention to protect others, hence not sinful. Moreover, upon hearing of the dog's death, you felt sorrowful and remorseful, indicating that you did not harbor any ill will or malice towards it. Your reaction shows compassion, not a desire for retribution. From the details you have provided, it is clear that you did not intend harm and acted out of concern for others' safety. Therefore, you should not feel guilty or remorseful. Ultimately, this outcome could be seen as the dog's karmic result. If it had not bitten you, it might have bitten someone else, leading to a similar fate. Under local laws, pet owners must ensure their pets do not harm others. If an owner fails to secure their pet and it causes harm, they are responsible. In this case, the council acted within their duty to protect public safety. While we should show compassion and care for living beings, we must also understand that in certain situations, worldly laws and responsibilities differ. Your compassion is commendable, but you should not feel burdened by guilt. However, if you feel sorrow for the dog, you can chant and dedicate merits to it during your practices. This aligns with the Dharma and is a kind gesture. May you always find peace in body and mind, diligently practice, and quickly achieve your spiritual goals. 30. A misunderstanding about the law of cause and effect. Question. Dear Venerable, I am not a Buddhist, but I have heard a lot about the law of cause and effect, karma, in Buddhism, and how it involves the interweaving of causes and effects across many lifetimes. I see many people talk about karma, but they often just talk about it rather than applying it to their lives. I have a habit of staying silent and avoiding conflict when I know someone is treating me badly. Does this mean I am violating the law of cause and effect? Please explain. Answer. Your question contains 3 key aspects that need to be addressed. First aspect. You mentioned that many people talk about karma but seldom apply it to their lives. I completely agree with you. However, it's important to note that few people can fully practice what they preach. There is often a gap between theory and practice. Talking about something is easy, but doing it is difficult. This is why the Confucian saying goes, preaching is easy, practicing is hard. Or those who can preach may not necessarily be able to practice. Theoretical understanding often goes further than practical action. If everyone practiced what they preached, the world would be a much happier place. The ancient sages often spoke little and only discussed things within their capacity to practice. In Buddhism, there is a saying, knowing and practicing should be unified. This is meant to encourage people to align their understanding with their actions. However, in reality, few people achieve this alignment. This is why wise people often speak cautiously. In Buddhism, understanding and action should be unified. However, in practice, this is challenging. It's easier to talk about doing good than to consistently act on it. If people could easily match their actions with their words, there would be much less suffering in the world. Hence, we often see that ancient sages speak less and act more, only discussing what they can actually practice. The saying, knowing and practicing should be unified, is meant to encourage people to align their understanding with their actions. However, in reality, it is challenging for many to achieve this unity. It's crucial to first have the right understanding, right view, even if one's practice does not immediately match it. It's better to have the right view and gradually work towards it than to hold incorrect views and practice them. Someone with correct understanding, even if not fully practicing it yet, is still better off than someone who has never learned about karma or applies it incorrectly. Second aspect. You mentioned that when someone treats you badly, you tend to stay silent and avoid conflict. This shows that you are practicing a form of patience and forbearance, which is commendable. It's important to know when to avoid unnecessary conflicts and maintain inner peace. This approach shows that you are practicing patience and avoiding creating further negative karma. However, if you can also practice letting go of any lingering resentment and cultivate compassion for those who wrong you, you are practicing an even higher form of patience, known as forbearing patience. If you can go a step further and not hold on to any negative feelings, then you are practicing equanimity and forgiveness, which are very powerful. This practice can help you maintain inner peace and prevent any negative karma from arising. Third aspect. You asked whether you are violating the law of cause and effect by staying silent and avoiding conflict. The law of cause and effect, karma, in Buddhism is not about breaking rules, but about understanding the natural law of actions and their consequences. It's important to clarify that karma is not a set of prohibitive rules, but a natural law of the universe. Your actions, causes, lead to certain results, effects, and this law applies universally to all beings, regardless of their beliefs. In Buddhism, karma is the natural law of cause and effect that governs the universe. It's not about breaking a rule, but understanding how actions lead to consequences. Your actions, causes, lead to specific results, effects, and this law applies universally. The key to karma is in your intention. Since you have no ill will towards those who wrong you and choose to avoid conflict, you are not creating negative karma. Instead, you are practicing mindfulness and restraint, which can lead to positive results. In summary, Understanding and applying the law of cause and effect can bring great benefits. Karma is a natural law that operates independently of religious belief. The Buddha did not create karma, he discovered and taught it. By understanding and wisely applying this law, you can lead a more harmonious and beneficial life. May you continue to cultivate understanding and practice with wisdom, bringing peace and benefit to yourself and others. 31. The issue of interfaith marriage. Question: Dear Venerable, my family has a tradition of practicing Buddhism. My grandparents and parents are all Buddhists. I have also taken refuge in the Three Jewels and become a Buddhist. However, I am in a relationship with a Christian girl and we plan to get married. When my parents found out, they strongly opposed our marriage. I want to ask, if we proceed with our marriage, will I be committing a sin against my religion? And will I be considered an unfilial child to my family? Please kindly provide your guidance and advice. Thank you. Answer: This is a very delicate issue, as it is based on personal belief. Here I will address this topic based on the spirit of non-self and non-attachment of Buddhism, and I offer some general thoughts on the matter. Faith is very important to people, especially religious faith. Buddhism has always respected the beliefs of others. Buddhism never forces anyone to follow it unconditionally. Therefore, choosing a religion is the individual's decision. Buddhism does not prohibit one from converting to another religion. It respects the absolute freedom of thought and decision-making of individuals. However, choosing between happiness and suffering is up to the individual. Buddhism simply points out clearly which path leads to happiness and which leads to suffering. Each person must carefully contemplate and decide for themselves. Buddhism encourages making enlightened decisions, as only then can one avoid falling into erroneous paths. With its principle of non-self and non-attachment, Buddhism advises people to open their hearts, be tolerant, and let go of all prejudices and biases. Prejudice and stubbornness are not fundamental to Buddhism. The more stubborn one is, the more suffering they will endure. It not only brings suffering to oneself but also to others. Buddhism has persisted over time because it does not enforce dogmatic beliefs. Buddhist teachings are grounded in two essential principles: truth and practicality. Truth is the unchanging principle of the universe, and practicality is the adaptability to different situations, contexts, and times, especially to the evolving thoughts of humanity. In today's society, marriage and relationships are not as rigidly defined as they were in the past. Customs and ceremonies vary by era and should adapt to current contexts. We should maintain customs that reflect good cultural values and traditions, while discarding outdated and superstitious practices. Parents should not cling to old-fashioned thinking that causes suffering for younger generations. In the past, the practice of arranged marriages led to much suffering, and sometimes even tragic outcomes. Forcing someone into marriage often resulted in unhappiness and in some cases even led to death. These are consequences of maintaining rigid traditions. In today's modern society, these old practices are no longer suitable. We need to foster a more open and inclusive mindset to build a compassionate and humane community. Returning to your question, you asked whether marrying someone of a different religion constitutes a sin against Buddhism. In my opinion, it does not. This is a personal decision about your relationship, not an abandonment of your religious beliefs. You did not say that you would abandon Buddhism upon getting married. You are only deciding to get married while maintaining your religious practice. Respecting each other's beliefs is important. As Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh says, you gain an additional spiritual root. This enriches you rather than brings any sin. You have not betrayed or harmed your religion. Happiness in marriage is not determined by religious compatibility, but by mutual understanding, respect, and love. Many couples of different faiths live happily together, while some same-faith couples do not. The key to happiness lies in how well the couple understands and respects each other, not in their religious backgrounds. As for your concern about being unfilial, traditional Vietnamese values emphasize obedience to parents. However, this does not mean you should sacrifice your happiness. Understanding between parents and children can prevent conflicts. Parents should act as advisors, helping you weigh the pros and cons rather than deciding for you. It is your right to choose your life partner. I hope these thoughts help clarify and resolve conflicts regarding interfaith marriage. My apologies if anything was amiss, and I wish you peace and happiness in your decisions. 32. Can one be reborn in the Pure Land without taking refuge in the Three Jewels? Question. Dear Venerable, although I have not formally taken refuge in the Three Jewels to become a Buddhist, I still practice mindfulness and refrain from doing anything wrong. Additionally, I practice Buddha recitation at home, even though I do not go to the temple. In this case, will I be able to be reborn in the Pure Land when I pass away? Please kindly clarify this for me. Answer. The practice of reciting the Buddha's name to seek rebirth in the Pure Land is not dependent on whether one has taken refuge or not. It also does not depend on whether one practices at a temple or at home. What is important is whether one is sincere and diligent in their practice and recitation. However, taking refuge in the Three Jewels is still beneficial. Why? Because it provides a spiritual direction and a foundation for learning and practice. By taking refuge and committing to uphold the precepts as taught by the Buddha, one is less likely to commit wrongdoings. This serves as a significant support for maintaining concentration during Buddha recitation. Taking refuge means relying on the Three Jewels to learn and understand the correct path of practice, not just to gain the empty title of being a Buddhist. If one views taking refuge merely as a title, it is contrary to the true meaning of taking refuge and unworthy of being called a Buddhist. In your case, even though you have not yet taken refuge in the Three Jewels, you still have faith and have chosen a practice method within Buddhism, which is commendable. Moreover, you have chosen the profound practice of Buddha recitation to focus on seeking rebirth in the Pure Land. This shows that in previous lifetimes, you had sown deep roots with the Pure Land practice, which has now matured into this fortunate opportunity. However, while practicing Buddha recitation, you might develop doubts, wondering if you can achieve rebirth in the Pure Land without having taken refuge in the Three Jewels. You might question whether Amitabha Buddha and the Bodhisattvas will come to guide you at the time of death. These doubts are understandable but unfounded. If you sincerely and wholeheartedly recite the Buddha's name, following the teachings of the Buddha and the patriarchs, I firmly believe that Amitabha Buddha and the Holy Assembly will not overlook you. This is the compassionate vow of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to save sentient beings. Therefore, you should practice with confidence and not let doubts hinder your aspiration for rebirth. The essential aspect of Buddha recitation is perseverance. As the patriarchs have taught, reciting the Buddha's name is not difficult, but maintaining it is hard. Maintaining it is not difficult, but achieving single-mindedness is hard. Master Ngo-ich, the 9th patriarch of the Pure Land School, said, "The practice of Buddha recitation is nothing extraordinary. Just have deep faith, earnest aspiration, and diligent practice. The key is to have unwavering faith, continuous practice, and single-minded recitation. Whether you recite 100,000, 30,000, or 50,000 times a day, set a fixed amount and keep to it without missing a day. Practice like this your entire life without changing, and if you do not achieve rebirth, it would mean the Buddhas of the 3 times were lying. Upon achieving rebirth, you will never regress, and all methods will be present before you. Be wary of an inconsistent mind, changing from day to day, chasing after so-called mystical methods. This leads to no accomplishment. Do not realize that a single-minded recitation of Amitabha's name encompasses the essence of all the sutras and the paths of the ancient Zen koans. It includes the 3,000 proper conducts, the 84,000 minor practices, and the 3 pure precepts. The greatest obstacle in Buddha recitation is a distracted mind that chases after external phenomena. You need to let go of all external attachments and keep your mind peaceful. Remember, Buddha recitation should come from the heart, not just from the mouth. Your mind and words should be in harmony, and each word of the recitation should be clear and distinct. Only then can the practice be truly effective. I sincerely advise you to seek out sutras and teachings on Buddha recitation from the Buddha, the patriarchs, and respected masters. This will help ensure your practice is correct and effective, increasing your assurance of rebirth in the Pure Land. Whether you have taken refuge or not, practice at home or at the temple, These depend on individual karma and circumstances. If you have faith and practice Buddha recitation yet still have doubts, I recommend taking refuge in the 3 jewels. Taking refuge will strengthen your faith and dedication, reducing doubts and fears, thus enhancing your practice and ensuring your aspiration for rebirth in the Pure Land. This is a sincere suggestion, not a compulsion. I respect each individual's decision regarding their spiritual path. I wish you firm faith, dedicated practice, and swift fulfillment of your aspiration for rebirth in the Pure Land. 33. The saying, "It's easier to change mountains and rivers than to change one's nature." Question: Dear Venerable, I've often heard the saying, "It's easier to change mountains and rivers than to change one's nature." What does this saying mean? I don't fully understand it. Could you please explain it to me? Answer: This saying consists of 2 parts that contrast each other. It's easier to change mountains and rivers, contrasts with, than to change one's nature. The first part refers to the impermanent and changing nature of external phenomena. The second part speaks partly about one's inner nature and also describes outward behavioral habits. The phrase "changing mountains and rivers" is straightforward and easily understood, signifying the changeable nature of external environments. This needs no further explanation. However, the phrase "changing one's nature" warrants a deeper understanding. Firstly, we need to clarify the term nature. Here, nature should not be mistaken for the inherent, unchanging essence of beings. Instead, the term nature here refers to the habitual tendencies accumulated over time. For example, someone might say, "I have a hot temper." This hot temper results from habits formed in specific environments, creating what we call nature. This nature includes other terms like habits, seeds of karma, afflictions, and karma. If we analyze further, there are 2 types of nature mentioned in the sutras: innate nature and acquired nature. Innate nature refers to seeds that have been present since time immemorial, deeply ingrained in the storehouse consciousness, alaya. These include afflictions like greed, anger, ignorance, pride, doubt, and wrong views. These ingrained habits are tough to eradicate. Difficult, yes, but not impossible. Acquired nature refers to habits formed in this lifetime, such as smoking, drug addiction, gambling, drinking, excessive talking, etc. These habits, being relatively recent, are easier to change, akin to shallow roots on the ground. Thus, spiritual practice aims to transform these negative habits or afflictions. If such habits cannot be changed, then what is the purpose of spiritual practice? Practicing Dharma means transforming karma. If karma cannot be transformed, how can one become enlightened? Through continuous and diligent practice, we can transform negative traits into positive, virtuous ones. However, the saying, "It's hard to change one's nature," generally refers to people who are stubborn and refuse to practice or improve. These are individuals who cling tightly to their beliefs. Even if their thoughts, words, or actions are harmful to themselves, their family, and society, they refuse to change. Thus, they are known for having fixed, unchangeable traits. This stubbornness is what makes changing one's nature difficult. Conversely, those who are open to improvement and willing to transform cannot be described by this saying. Therefore, this saying should not be understood rigidly or unilaterally. Discussing nature, we must acknowledge both good and bad traits. The alaya consciousness in everyone contains seeds of both good and evil. The Buddha and the patriarchs instruct us to eliminate the seeds of evil. In Mahayana Buddhism, this process is described as transforming negative seeds into positive ones. Practitioners should nourish and develop wholesome seeds. Advanced practitioners should transform both good and bad traits, transcending dualistic concepts of good and evil. This transcendence signifies enlightenment or realization. In conclusion, nature and habits can be changed because they lack fixed, permanent substance. Once one's nature is transformed, outward behavior naturally improves. Behavior reflects inner nature. Particularly for women, proper demeanor and speech are highly valued as indicators of modesty and decorum. Improper behavior suggests a lack of refinement. Therefore, nature and habits can indeed be changed. For example, a person once restless and agitated can, through practice, become calm and composed. Someone formerly aggressive and malevolent can transform into a kind and gentle person. Thus, saying that nature is hard to change applies mainly to those who are obstinately resistant to improvement. For those open to self-improvement and spiritual practice, transformation is always possible. The saying, "It's easier to change mountains and rivers than to change one's nature," should not be interpreted rigidly. If transformation were impossible, negative individuals would never improve. Yet, not everyone remains the same. The phrase, "Put down the butcher's knife and become a Buddha," demonstrates that transformation is always possible. The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas achieved their status through such transformation. With determination and effort, anyone can change their nature. In truth, nature is inherently subject to change and impermanence. May you gain clarity and understanding from this explanation. 34. The meaning of think twice before you speak. Question: Dear Venerable, people often say, "Think twice before you speak." What does this saying mean? I don't fully understand it. Could you please explain it to me? Answer: This saying reflects the wisdom and practical experience in communication and behavior of the ancients. They deeply understood and feared the human tongue's lack of bone, which made it capable of twisting in many directions. Because it has no bone, it can twist and turn easily. It can twist forward or backward skillfully. When someone favors another, the tongue can twist to please that person. Sometimes to gain personal benefits, it twists in flattery and sycophancy, saying whatever the other person wants to hear. The goal is to gain favor or profit. In this way, the tongue flatters, regardless of truth or integrity, to achieve personal gain. Conversely, when the tongue disdains someone, it twists in a manner to curse, gossip, slander, add falsehoods, insult, and defame. In every way possible, it tries to harm that person. The tongue can twist in sweet words or in bitter, harmful ways. Therefore, among the 5 precepts for lay Buddhists, the 4th precept is to abstain from false speech, divisive speech, harsh speech, and idle chatter. To prevent the tongue from twisting thoughtlessly and causing harm, the ancients advised people to think twice before you speak. This advice holds a metaphorical meaning. It implies that one should think carefully before speaking. Indeed, no one physically twists their tongue 7 times before speaking. If taken literally, it would be nonsensical and physically taxing. The phrase suggests that one should think deeply and consider the impact of their words before speaking. Thinking 7 times implies looking up, down, and around before speaking. This resembles the number 7, which includes all directions, up, down, east, west, south, and across, as written in Eastern tradition. This means considering the impact of words from all angles. Looking up, ensure words do not disrespect elders or superiors. Looking down, avoid speaking in a way that harms those below, such as scolding children harshly. Looking around, ensure words do not harm anyone around. Looking across, maintain harmony and avoid causing discord among peers. This ancient advice aims to ensure words do not cause harm. Speech should be gentle, kind, and constructive, promoting harmony and benefiting others. By carefully considering words before speaking, one's speech becomes valuable and impactful. Respectful speech towards elders and kind words towards others uphold ethical conduct and prevent harm. A story from the novice monk's discipline recounts a young novice who insulted an old monk's chanting. The old monk, who was an arhat, advised the novice to repent to avoid falling into hell. Although the novice avoided hell by repenting, he still faced the consequence of being reborn as a dog for 500 lifetimes due to his harsh words. This story illustrates the severe repercussions of unthoughtful speech. In summary, think twice before you speak is metaphorical advice urging caution and mindfulness in speech. Words do not cost money. Choose them carefully to please others. Or wise birds chirp pleasingly, wise people speak gently. Remember, disaster comes from the mouth, illness enters through the mouth. A single word can uplift or destroy a nation. For Buddhists, the Buddha taught us to use kind and truthful speech in our interactions. Our words should carry lasting value and integrity. May you find this explanation helpful and enriching. 35. The issue of fortune-telling and astrology. Question: Dear Venerable, my father used to do fortune-telling and astrology for others when he was alive. He also passed this knowledge on to me. I occasionally read fortunes for people, although it is not my main profession. Now that I have studied Buddhism and understand a bit about the law of karma, I strive to create good karma. However, I have not been able to completely give up this practice, especially since I see that some temples allow people to draw lots and predict their fortunes. Does my practice go against the law of karma and lead to negative karmic consequences? Please kindly explain this to me. Answer: according to the law of karma taught by the Buddha, any action that does not align with the truth falls into the realm of wrong views and superstition. Fortune-telling, astrology, and similar practices are contrary to the law of karma. Karma is a universal objective truth that pervades all beings and things. No being can escape the law of karma. Karma is as impartial as an echo in the air. The louder you shout, the louder the echo. Every thought, word, or deed falls within the scope of karma. In your question, you mentioned the practice of drawing lots and predicting fortunes in temples. This issue is explained in the book 100 Questions on Buddhism, Volume 1, in the section on right and wrong beliefs, page 139. Here I won't repeat the detailed explanation, but I encourage you to read that book if you wish to understand more. However, to address your question, I will provide a brief explanation. Temples often conduct practices like checking auspicious days, star positions, and drawing lots to meet the long-standing superstitious beliefs of people. Truthfully, these practices do not conform to the Buddha's teachings and are contrary to the law of karma. Because these practices have become deeply ingrained in people's beliefs, it is difficult to completely eradicate them. Hence, temples offer these services as a skillful means to cater to people's needs. If temples did not provide such services, people might seek them elsewhere, potentially deepening their wrong views and superstitions. By offering these services in the temple, people have an opportunity to come to the temple, worship the Buddha, or listen to the Dharma. This in turn benefits them by exposing them to the Dharma and fostering good connections with the three jewels. Moreover, it allows monks and nuns to explain the law of karma to them. Many lay people, initially drawn by superstition, gradually develop true faith in the three jewels in the law of karma after listening to the teachings. Thus, these practices serve as a skillful means to guide those who have not yet taken refuge in the three jewels, or those who still hold superstitious beliefs back to the right path and right beliefs. Regarding your situation, although you have studied Buddhism and understand a bit about the law of karma, you still find it difficult to completely give up fortune-telling and astrology. This indicates that while you understand, you have not firmly decided to practice accordingly. I sympathize with you because breaking a habit or deep-seated belief is not easy. But as a disciple of the Enlightened One, continuing such practices is regrettable. According to the Buddha's teachings, these practices are wrong livelihoods that create unwholesome karma. If you can decisively abandon them, it would be highly beneficial. My concern is that you might accumulate unwholesome karma unknowingly. This is my sincere advice. Ultimately, whether to abandon this practice is your decision. Consider this. Despite having studied Buddhism and understanding the law of karma, you still find it hard to abandon these superstitious practices. How much more difficult would it be for those who have never studied Buddhism or understood the law of karma? How can they avoid falling into wrong views and superstitions? If everyone firmly believed in the law of karma, temples would not need to offer such services. Instead, practitioners would support monks and nuns in dedicating more time to their own study and practice. This is highly commendable. Unfortunately, many lay people still find it challenging to abandon these practices. By sharing this, I do not intend to criticize or oppose anyone, especially those who currently believe in or practice fortune-telling. I respect everyone's beliefs and practices. Here, I only analyze according to the Buddha's teachings to help you understand better. As you mentioned, fortune-telling and astrology were passed down to you by your father. Hence, you find it difficult to completely abandon them. However, I believe that your father did these things because he had not studied the Buddha's teachings or understood the law of karma. Just because someone before us acted wrongly, it doesn't mean we should continue the same path. Otherwise, society would never progress. The Buddha's teachings encourage us to improve ourselves and avoid being trapped by old habits and beliefs. As Buddhists, we should not cling to harmful preconceptions. If we do, how can we progress in our practice to become enlightened beings? reflect deeply on the Buddha's teachings. According to the Buddha, a Buddhist's faith must be grounded in the right understanding. This means our faith must be based on wisdom. Without this, our faith is weak and blind, leading to wrong views. Therefore, whatever we do as Buddhists, we must have right understanding. With right understanding, our judgments and decisions will be clear and free from errors. This is something you must understand through your own study and reflection on the teachings. You asked if practicing fortune-telling and astrology goes against the law of karma and results in unwholesome karma. As mentioned, it certainly goes against the law of karma and inevitably leads to unwholesome consequences. Why? According to the Buddha, all unwholesome actions arise from the interaction of the three karmas, body, speech, and mind. When these three work together in unwholesome deeds, unwholesome results follow. The severity of the karma depends on the intensity of the actions. Among the three, the mind is the leading force. When the three karmas create unwholesome actions, unwholesome results are inevitable. In the Flower Ornament Sutra, the Buddha said, "Every action and movement is not free from fault. Actions contrary to our true nature are considered false due to ignorance. When actions arise from ignorance, they lead to numerous mistakes. Once these unwholesome actions are created, the results follow naturally. Karma is as impartial as an echo following a sound, and as inseparable as a shadow from a form. Karma's justice is unerring, and the results of our actions, whether good or bad, will manifest accordingly. It is just a matter of time. The sutra says, even after hundreds of thousands of eons, the karma created does not perish. When the conditions converge, the results are experienced accordingly." Reflect on this deeply. Ultimately, the decision is yours. May you have clear understanding and wisdom to distinguish right from wrong and achieve all your aspirations. 36. A person who regularly goes to the temple, but their temperament remains unchanged. Question: Dear Venerable, my husband knows about Buddhism and is diligent in going to the temple, reciting sutras, and doing volunteer work. However, when he comes home, his old bad habits such as gambling, drinking, and picking fights with the family remain unchanged. I am puzzled why he has not changed his temperament despite his religious practices. Is it due to past karma or deeply ingrained habits from this life? Please kindly explain this to me. Answer: Being diligent in going to the temple, reciting sutras, and doing volunteer work is very commendable and worthy of encouragement. However, if we believe that these activities alone constitute true practice, it is not entirely accurate. At first glance, one might think these actions reflect genuine practice, but upon closer examination, it is not necessarily so. These activities can contribute to a small portion of practice or merely create some merit. Without deeper understanding, it is easy for people to be misled. As mentioned in previous answers, attending the temple, volunteering, and reciting sutras without cultivating and transforming the three karmas of body, speech, and mind is not true practice. Why is this? Because these actions are often performed out of habit rather than true cultivation. To understand what genuine practice is, we must first understand the meaning of the word to, cultivate, or practice. To means to correct or transform. But what do we correct and where do we correct it? Obviously, we must correct the three karmas of body, speech, and mind. 1. Correcting the body. Correcting the body means changing our physical actions. Before knowing how to practice, we might have engaged in harmful behaviors such as physical abuse, killing, stealing, and other immoral actions. Now that we understand practice, we must refrain from these negative actions. This is how we practice, by transforming our physical actions. 2. Correcting speech. Correcting speech involves changing the way we speak. The Buddha teaches us to avoid 4 types of harmful speech: lying, divisive speech, harsh speech, and idle chatter. Before practicing, we might have engaged in deceit, slander, harsh criticism, and frivolous talk. Now we must commit to speaking truthfully, kindly, and harmoniously. This is how we practice, by purifying our speech. 3. Correcting the mind. Correcting the mind means transforming our thoughts and attitudes. Previously, we might have been greedy, envious, angry, or deluded. Now we must recognize and transform these negative mental habits. We should cultivate generosity to counteract greed, loving kindness to counteract anger, and wisdom to counteract ignorance. This is how we practice, by purifying our mind. In summary, genuine practice involves transforming negative qualities into positive ones, correcting wrong to right, bad to good, false to true, harmful to kind, and mundane to holy. Only by making these transformations can we be said to be truly practicing. Regarding your husband, although he diligently participates in temple activities, his lack of change in personal habits suggests that he has not truly embraced the essence of practice. Despite his good deeds, he has not transformed his 3 karmas. His continued bad habits, such as gambling and drinking, indicate that he has not genuinely practiced. These behaviors are the result of deeply ingrained habits, karmic seeds, from both past lives, innate tendencies, and this life, acquired habits. The Buddha explains that we have 2 types of karmic seeds: innate, inherited from past lives, and acquired, developed in this life. Innate tendencies include deep-rooted afflictions like greed, hatred, and delusion, which are difficult to eradicate but not impossible. Acquired habits, such as gambling and drinking, can be changed with determined effort. Your husband's case shows that although he performs good deeds, he has not engaged in true practice that transforms his inner self. He remains unchanged in his actions and reactions because he has not addressed the root causes of his behavior. True practice requires continuous self-awareness and effort to transform negative tendencies. Some people go to the temple but remain angry, gossip about others, and criticize everyone around them. Even during chanting, if something displeases them, they react with intense anger. This behavior shows they are not truly practicing. In conclusion, attending the temple and doing good deeds are beneficial and create merit, but without inner transformation, it is not genuine practice. Genuine practice involves consistent effort to transform one's body, speech, and mind, leading to true peace and liberation. Only then can we be considered true practitioners of Buddhism. May you find peace and wisdom in your practice and achieve the transformation you seek. If you have any further questions or need more clarification, please feel free to ask. 37. How to advise someone to reduce their slavery to physical appearance. Question: Dear Venerable, I have a friend who often goes to the temple, does volunteer work, recites sutras, and reads many Buddhist scriptures. However, when she goes out or attends parties, she often dresses very revealingly and fashionably, attracting a lot of attention. I am puzzled. Why is it that despite her understanding of Buddhism and her practice, she is still so enslaved to physical appearance? Is it because she is too attached to her body? I want to advise her, but I don't know how to approach the topic. Please kindly share your thoughts on this matter. Answer: Buddhism places a great emphasis on practice. Theoretical study and understanding, though important, serve as supplementary to actual practice. It's similar to having bright eyes to guide the feet. Without practical application, theoretical knowledge alone leads nowhere. This is akin to someone who spends their life herding cows or counting money for others, but ends up with no milk or money of their own. Hence, actual practice is crucial. The matter of adorning oneself to look attractive and stylish is a characteristic deeply ingrained in women. Almost every woman likes to beautify herself, except for those who have renounced worldly life to become nuns. From ancient times to the present, women have always pursued fashion and beauty. Buddhism views this as a heavy karmic burden for women. However, there is a distinction between dressing nicely and dressing provocatively. A person who dresses provocatively and immodestly, despite having some understanding of Buddhism, likely holds the belief that their spiritual practice is separate from their worldly behavior. They might think, when I am at the temple, I wear the robes of a monk. When I am out, I wear fashionable clothes. Such individuals follow the principle of, when at the temple, they devoutly worship the Buddha. When in the world, they indulge in worldly pleasures. Their serene mind disappears in worldly competitions, dressing provocatively to attract attention, forgetting about their spiritual practice. This is likely a deeply ingrained habit for them. They are still heavily attached to their physical appearance and are still influenced by worldly desires. They haven't realized the impermanent and illusory nature of the body. Although they study Buddhism, they might not have internalized practices such as mindfulness or contemplation on the body's impermanence. While you have good intentions and wish to advise your friend against dressing immodestly, It is important to recognize that each person has their own way of living and thinking. People's dress and behaviors vary greatly. What you might see as improper, they might view as fashionable and appropriate. If you try to advise them, your words might not be effective, as they might believe that their behavior is perfectly acceptable. Every person has their own karma, and advice that is not tactfully given can backfire. They might view you as outdated or meddlesome. As a result, you might end up feeling more troubled and even jeopardize your friendship. Sometimes, it is best not to interfere in matters that are beyond our control. Letting things be and allowing events to unfold naturally might be better. If you believe you can gently and skillfully advise them, then that decision is yours to make. Since you asked, I am merely offering my perspective. To me, dressing is a matter of external appearance. It might not cause any harm, as what might seem improper to you could be acceptable to someone else. Judging a person solely on their dress is insufficient. We need to consider their personality and circumstances, which we might not fully understand. Hasty judgment can lead to misunderstanding, and they might perceive you as jealous or biased. I encourage you to consider your words carefully before advising. Make sure your advice is given with compassion and understanding, respecting their views and circumstances. May you always have wisdom and success in your practice of Buddhism. 38. Meaning of the phrase, "On the red lotus tongue radiates a halo of light." Question: Dear Venerable, in the recitation ritual of the Lotus Sutra, there is a verse praising the sutra that includes the phrase, "On the red lotus tongue radiates a halo of light." What is the meaning of this phrase? Please kindly explain it to me, as I do not fully understand it. Answer: When reading the Mahayana Sutras, we should be mindful of the figurative or allegorical language often used. The meaning is not always directly in the words. The meaning is beyond the words. If we only interpret based on the literal meaning, we may misunderstand the sutra and thus misinterpret the Buddha's teachings, which is unjust to the Buddhas of the three times. When studying Mahayana Sutras, we must consider both the relative, su, and the absolute, li, aspects. Usually, in the Buddha's teachings, the relative and the absolute are in harmony. The relative indicates the absolute, and the absolute manifests through the relative. Therefore, practitioners should not understand or cling to just one aspect. If we understand in a biased way, we will not fully grasp the meaning of the sutra. The phrase in question is not just about the relative aspect. The ancient masters used tangible images to convey deeper meanings. We should ask ourselves, how could there be a red lotus growing on the tongue that emits a halo of light? If we only understand it literally, how can we explain this phrase? Remember, this verse is not spoken by the Buddha, but is a praise of the Buddha's words in the sutra. The Lotus Sutra is a Mahayana text that leads beings to the ultimate enlightenment. Every word and phrase contains infinite profound meanings, akin to the dew of nectar, the essence of butter, or the white pearls of relics. The ancient masters used images to praise the Buddha's words, which bring supreme benefits to all beings. On the red lotus tongue radiates a halo of light is symbolic. When speaking, we use our tongue. The red lotus symbolizes pure, noble virtues. The halo of light symbolizes the wisdom of Prajna. It means that the Buddha's teachings are like golden words, pure and bright like a halo that illuminates the entire universe. The teachings have a beautiful effect, guiding beings toward purity, clarity, and ultimate liberation. These are the holy words or true speech. Therefore, when reading the sutras, we must be wholeheartedly respectful and dedicated. Only then will our recitation be truly beneficial. Beyond praising the sutra, the ancient masters also intended to remind us to apply this to our daily lives. As Buddhists, our speech should be pure, beautiful, and valuable like the lotus, and as mindful and bright as a halo of light. In interactions, we should use kind, gentle, and harmonious words and avoid harsh words that cause suffering. Only then will our speech have real credibility and bring benefits to others. Our speech should be, words spoken must be truthful, words spoken like Buddha radiating light, words spoken must be gentle and kind, like the lotus blooming in summer heat, words spoken with the power of compassion, words spoken without causing enmity, words spoken without ignorance. No causing harm, ending doubt, eliminating toxins.